and welcome everyone to day 5 of Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. Warning, 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 rated M for mature. Wandana, I had it all week.
And you did. It was very impressive.
So Wandana and I were talking at the Experts Bootcamp last weekend, and when I found out that she was going to be my co-host, she's like, maybe we should put a rating on the show. It's like, rated M for mature. You never know where this is going to go. Yeah. Who knows? So you have been warned, okay?
Yeah.
You have been warned. So Wandana, can you tell us just a little bit about you so that as we go through our interviews today, our audience has some sort of context for where your questions come from?
Sure. So I'm a marketer and strategist for the past 25, 30 years. I've worked with all kinds of organizations, both in the corporate and consulting world. Big multinational brands to, entrepreneurs and small businesses. And throughout that, I realized the one big question that I had in my mind was always, there are so many of us out there that are brilliantly solving the wrong problem. And I say that's I feel like that's been my catch line,
Yes.
Because it happens every single day. And you kind of go like, you got to be kidding me. So I decided to embark on a pretty big, I'll call it a project, about researching and interviewing, and let's just say researching. That encompasses everything. Yeah. And started figuring out like how can we be better at that, because I think creative problem solving is one of those skills that we're never really taught, but has the ability to change absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And if you start from the point of curiosity, then you know what, you got it made.
That's exactly what I love to do with these interviews. I used to try to spend so much time beforehand and research every person, only to feel horrible about not knowing one of the people I was interviewing.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I'm like, it doesn't matter. There are other people like me who have never met this person.
That's
and
right.
If I come to that interview with love and curiosity,
yeah,
then those people who don't know them as well get a chance to actually know them from scratch, just like me live. As my light is driving me nuts. It's fine. Okay, so our first guest is one of my dear friends, and I'm going to preface this with this. When I went to Harvard last year, I could not afford a hotel. Like, I didn't even buy my plane ticket back from Boston. I didn't have any money. I didn't know how I was getting back. So I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I had nowhere to sleep. And then just out of the woodworks, all of these people are like, you can stay at my house. You can stay at my house. I can take you here and there. Jacob was one of those people. So on my way back from Boston, I got to meet him in person, and he was taller than expected, which I joke about all the time. But it was absolutely lovely to hang out with you. And we were saying behind the scenes to find other speakers and just be able to have that camaraderie, that more focused community, no matter where you come from. It's just so nice. So Jacob, welcome to the stage. Do you have any comments on my story? And then we'll playfully get started.
Thank you. And yes, I will say I have a few comments on that. In terms of hanging out, we maybe hung out for maybe 2 hours before she fell asleep on the chair next to my TV. And I had to awkwardly sit there until I felt not bad enough to wake her up and say, okay, go sleep on the deflating air mattress in the other room. But overall, it was a really good time. We ended up going to like this amazing like outdoor garden and just like exploring the botanical gardens and stuff. And it was really cool to meet Laura in person and, get everyone kind of from the crew that we had developed online together. And I think we also went like belly dancing, which was a really fun time.
Oh my God.
I made sure to make our friend Anthony as uncomfortable as possible during that entire experience. And I could shake it. We'll say that.
Oh, we have pictures and videos.
Yes.
It was so much fun. I just want to say thank you for all of that and being so gracious with being a host and not waking me up while I was snoring slightly.
Oh.
That's okay.
You should have filmed it, Jacob.
That would be a little creepy. First time meeting Laura. I have a whole video of you
No,
sleeping in
it's
my house.
total like blackmail material.
That's not my style.
See, next time I come over, you're more than welcome to, and then I'll do it right back.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so Jacob, we've been playing with one of my favorite questions just because it's a lot of fun and there's so many subtleties to it that we get to learn a lot about you. So here's my question.
Okay.
If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what might those 3 words be?
Good question. I think I would want people to describe me as someone who's kind, who's honest, and who's loving.
Kind, honest, and loving. I started writing down everybody's answers because it's really interesting, the patterns that you see with that. So
Really
then,
cool.
why would you say kind, honest, and loving? Like, why not the typical creative and authentic and yesterday courageous?
That's a good question too. I think I just like really value kindness in myself and in other people. I think the world needs people who are more kind and like kind to themselves, kind to other people, and just kind in general. I think honesty, because I also really value that. Like if you're going to like, I don't want someone to put on like a fake kind of facade for me or something. I'd rather just have open and honest communications with people. And like, if you're having a bad day, then let me know you're having a bad day. And if you think I'm doing something that's going in the wrong direction, like, let me know. Like, I want to hear your opinion, because I think if you sugarcoat everything for people, then it's not going to put you in a space of growth. But if you're like, if you're honest, and you tell someone like, look, what you did, like yesterday I'll give an example. Yesterday I did an Instagram live video and someone said, look, you're looking up at your notes too much. Cause I have my notes on my screen here and I was like looking up and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't notice that. And I didn't think it would be that noticeable. But if someone said, yeah, your Instagram live was great, like everything was perfect, I wouldn't have known that growth point. So honesty is something that I take like really to heart. And I try to be honest with everyone that I come across as well. And then loving, I just think the world needs more love, man. Like we just gotta, like, I'm a very loving person. And like, it's partly, I have to give credit to like Laura and everyone else in the Clubhouse group that we were part of. Like I met her at a time when I was at my lowest point. Like I was going through a separation with my wife. I was going through like all this like emotional trauma, and just like the love that she poured into me, the love that other people poured into me. Like I'm just a very loving person, and I've always just craved that kind of love and like attention from people, and to be able to get that from complete strangers at the time was absolutely incredible. So for me, like I just try to show up now in every facet of my life as like, how can I be loving to this person? Because you don't know what people are going through. So how can I show up with love? How can I show up with kindness? How can I show up with integrity and honesty, and just show up as like the highest version of myself for that person?
You know, I have to say, Jacob, one of the most beautiful things you said is honesty, but also kindness. And I remember being, well, not I remember, it's not like it was that long ago, but I was raised very much about being honest, always be honest. But I wasn't always taught to be kind. And that's something that I learned through the working world as to what an impact it can have. And, you know, you can be honest and you can be nice. Imagine that. You can do both at the same time. So that's just the vibe that I got from you. And I just think that's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And I think too, if I could just kind of comment on that as well, like there's a difference between being like bluntly honest and then like like kind of sugarcoating the honesty, like there's a nice, like you were saying, there's a nice way to be honest to people. Yeah. Instead of being like, yeah, you really sucked making that Instagram live video, being like, oh, you know what, you did a great job at these points, but maybe next time you can improve, like maybe don't look at your notes as much, right? Like it's two completely different ways of saying it.
Like the kindness sandwich of,
yes,
love your smile. You are really shitty at looking at your nose, right? But I loved your smile. That doesn't feel very good, even though it's a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob, how does this kindness, honesty, and this approach to just being loving How does that play a role in the message that you're trying to share with the world?
Good question. I think that when I can bring kindness, honesty, and love to my message, it will resonate with the right people. I think that if I can show up like, and kind of like piggybacking off of maybe yesterday's authenticity, if I can show up as authentic and be in a space of being like the kindest version of myself, the most honest version of myself, and the most loving version of myself, when I deliver the message, then I'm going into it with a different mindset. Because I think if I go into the mindset with like, okay, I'm going to create this video, or I'm going to create this message with the intent of making a lot of money, or with the intent of, getting as many views as possible, then it's a different mindset going into it, right? It's not focused on how can I add value to the people that I'm speaking with or I'm speaking to? How can I create a kind of loving and warm environment for them to be in and feel that they're comfortable to reach out to me on like a back channel message or in a DM to say like, Jake, your message really impacted me. Like, I can't believe, I'm going through this right now and yada, 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 and be in this space of, okay, like I hear you, I appreciate you, I value you. And I want you to know that if you are going through a rough time, like I'm here for you. And that's the purpose of the message. So that's where kind of being kind comes in, being honest and loving, because it allows me to have a more personal connection with the audience and the people I'm speaking with.
I can say that when I'm having a bad day or I need support, Jacob, you are the first person that I think of and probably reach out to, just so that people at home know too. Like, it's not just things that he's saying. Like, when you are in a room with Jacob, whether it's virtual or real life, you feel that just oozing from him. And that's why, like, as one of those people who wants to spread the love, to find somebody else that wants to spread the love just as much as I do is rare. That gives it back to me the way that I like to give it to the world is rare. So I feel very supported reaching out to you on my shitty days and being like, I just need to vent. And you're like, do you feel better? Like, yes.
And it goes both ways. Like, Laura, you're one of the first people I talk to about like anything going on. Like, I'll send you a message like, look, I'm having a really emotional day. Like, I'm going to shit. My mind is racing. I feel like I just want to walk away and not come back. And you reel me back in.
Oh, okay. With the whole M for mature rating, don't worry, I won't tell secrets. Like, we will literally talk about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people who have met me, not just in the business world, and Wandana, I'm pretty sure you kind of do the same thing. People can approach you and talk about anything, knowing that they're not going to be judged, that they're completely safe. You'll have that open and honest conversation. But how many people can we say we can do that with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, many people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jacob, I know.
Cool observation, Laura. I just had to throw that in.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had spoken when I asked you to be here with me today. You said, I'm not entirely sure what my message is, but I know that you've been on stages. I know that you had your own podcast. I know that you've written your own book, right? So what inspired you to do those things, even though you didn't necessarily have a very clear and concise message for people?
Great question. I know for me, like deep down, I've always known that I've wanted to help people. And how I was going to do that, I didn't know. I'm just like, take action and do it. And like, it all kind of started when I first started getting into self-help and personal development. Like, I was in a really rough time. Like, I was trying to get a job out of university. It wasn't happening. I got rejected by like over 100 different companies. Like, it was insane. Like, I was so depressed. And then one of my friends was just like, here, watch The Secret. And I watched it and I got on the hype train of The Secret and I got all that. And I'm like, okay, that kind of started the journey. And just over time, I'm like, okay, this is really good. And if this can really help me, how can I help other people? So I started branching off of that and getting into spaces of like, okay, if this will work for me, maybe it'll work for someone else. And I started taking that approach. And then I'm like, well, how can I amplify that? I'm not really techie. I'm not really good at marketing. I'm not the greatest at sales and copy and doing all this kind of stuff. So what can I do that will benefit other people, that I know I can have a skill or develop a skill in it that comes kind of more naturally to me. And I've always been pretty charismatic. Like I can walk into a room and I will introduce myself to any person that's there confidently. But I was always kind of afraid of public speaking. So I started getting into Toastmasters, and I did that for years. And I had a phenomenal mentor named Tony who kind of just threw me to the wolves. I think I was there maybe like 3 months, and he's like, yep, I signed you up for a speaking contest. You're going in it, and good luck. And it was only meeting like once a week. So this was maybe my 7th or 8th time. I hadn't even done my first speech yet. And he's like, yep, you're doing this contest. Go in there and do it.
Wow.
And I did, and I won.
Wow.
And I kept, thank you. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to the speaking. So I worked on developing my speaking ability. And just through that, I started studying more. I started learning about different ways of developing myself and like creating this kind of self-mastery within myself. And it's just been an ever-growing train. So it's like, I'll try something. If it catches traction, it does. If it lights me up on the inside, I'll keep doing it, because I don't want to be in a space where I'm like, okay, I'm doing this just for the money, or I'm doing this just for the views. Like I'd rather do something that wakes me up, fills my fire, and like makes me just like shine bright, you know, and be in this space of just like love, compassion, and peace moving forward, and like adding value to other people. Like that's like my, like probably one of my core things when it comes to speaking and creating this message of whatever it is how can I add value to other people? And I really focus a lot on that. So when I'm like not really sure what my message is and how to craft it and, you know, find that spark, it's hard with me because I'm constantly changing. I'm constantly evolving, and I'm constantly like, okay, I'm really passionate about this week, but next week I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that anymore. So it's like so like when I wrote the book, for example, that was just kind of like a self-memoir of like, this is what helped me at the time get to the point where I was at that point. And I kind of wrote that down. I'm like, okay, because that really helped me. I think it turned out just to be like a giant journal of like, this is what helped me. And then I just published it because I'm like, hey, if I can write a book, then why not? I'll be an author. It's just like, I'll try it. I'll do it. And then I did. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, Laura, but that's kind of where my headspace is at with it.
No, it does answer the question, but I want to highlight one piece and then kind of add to it. So you said you didn't necessarily have a message, but you knew that you needed to just share what was in your head and express yourself. Mm-hmm. I want to add to that even though you don't necessarily have a message, you knew the type of person that you wanted to be. You knew the type of value that you wanted to share. And sometimes that's all you need to start. Mm-hmm. And I love that you took that and you're like, I want to show up in the world like this. And you defined it as adding value and helping other people. You can do that any way that you so choose. But if you don't get started, you never get started. So you just took that and you got started. So I want to celebrate that and just remind people who are watching, who are trying to think, well, what is my story? What is my story? What am I sharing? You have lots of things to share, lots of value to share. Just get started. Build on it later, okay? So what were some of your fears about getting started, whether it is speaking or podcasting or writing?
Great question. I think for me, growing up, I was bullied a lot in like high school, middle school, like constantly bullied. So I had this huge fear of humiliation, of making a mistake, of going out, putting myself out there and being embarrassed or made fun of for it. Or, you know, because like I'm just like a small town kid, right? Like who am I to make this big impact in this huge world coming from such a small town? But I don't believe that. I think anyone can make an impact from wherever they are. So don't let that be a deterrent. I've learned that now. Mm-hmm. But when I was first getting started, I was afraid of being made fun of. I was afraid of stumbling across my words. I was afraid of not knowing the words to say or not having a response to it. And a big self-limiting belief was like, well, who am I to say this to other people? Yeah. You know, what kind of, if I haven't gone through any kind of experiences that relate to what I'm talking about, how can I speak to it confidently and from a place of learned experience? So a big part of what was holding me back from getting started at first was I haven't lived enough to have these kind of experiences to talk confidently about them. And now, as I've grown, I've gone through incredible trauma with lots of different things, relationship trauma, child trauma, losing my son when he was like 24 weeks old. Like all these different traumas have built into life experience of, okay, how do I want to show up? How can I take what has happened to me and turn it into something positive for other people to learn from, that they might be going through something similar? And also a big fear, especially when it comes, and I'm still working on this one, is like filming in public. Like, I don't know how some people get like that kind of courage to like go out and like film themselves like twerking on a public beach with like a camera. Like I don't know, like to me there's just like some kind of shame in that. Like I grew up in the generation where it's like if you did something like that, you would get made fun of for it. But now it's just so accepted. So it's like that's like deep ingrained in my brain to like walk around with like a camera, you know, like walk around with my phone like this and like record and just like talk to myself. But like people don't care. And like that's one of the biggest things I've learned, especially like going to the gym, is like when you first start going to, and I'll use this as an analogy, is like when you first start going to the gym, you think everyone's looking at you, right? Like if you're doing an exercise incorrectly, or, you know, you're just showing up and you're working out, you know, you think everyone's looking at you, but no one cares. Like people are there for themselves. And like no one, like, yes, like people will see you. And if you're doing an exercise wrong, I would hope that they would come over and be like, hey, like you should really change up your form. But in most cases, people are not there to judge you or make fun of you.
No.
You know, I have to say, as you're speaking, first of all, I have to tell you, you've got a great voice.
Thank you.
I can totally hear it. And it was actually one of the first things I thought of when I met you. So, so know that that's still a strength.
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking about all the stuff that you've said, but what keeps coming back to me about you is that even if you can help one life, one person, you've made an impact. And sometimes I think we fail to realize that because you don't know who else they will impact. There's a huge ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know which lives you're saving by helping someone, you know? So I don't know. I just felt like that. I felt that from you. And I just, I wanted you to know that I think what you're doing is pretty amazing. I do have a question though.
Sure.
I hope you think this is a really good question, just like all of Laura's questions have been so far. So one of the struggles that I think we have, whether it's starting out or whether we're building something new or expanding, is you want to do all this great work, but you also have the flip side of, you know, putting food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is how do you reconcile that, and how have you found the experience of monetizing, for lack of a better word, the stuff that you're doing, or maybe building on something else that you've done? I'm really curious because I think it's a question that a lot of people will have.
Yeah, and I don't know that I have a great answer. So sorry, everyone. For me, I haven't actually found a way to fully monetize my speaking yet. Sure. So currently I still work a full-time job, and I just do speaking kind of on the side. So in my spare time, like I'll typically do, I was actually off speaking for quite a while because I was just trying to get my head straight. But now I'm getting back into it by creating Instagram live videos almost every day. Mm-hmm. And just to get myself used to speaking again. Mm. And I'm currently on the path of charting out, like, how can I create an impact that I can actually monetize? Mm-hmm. And I've created like a little strategy on, like, I've journaled through it. I found like a strategy that I can maybe start creating YouTube videos translate that into podcasts, and just kind of how can I magnify and intensify the message to more people instead of just like a private Instagram page. So I don't know if I can fully answer your question of how I've monetized it, because I can't say that I have.
But you've started is what it sounds like. You're starting down that path.
Yes. I'm starting down the path and trying to create value for other people and trying, like, testing out new things. So for right now, it's focusing on how can I refine what I want to talk about and refine my speaking ability, that when I'm creating a video, that doesn't come across as me rambling. Because Laura, you know, I will get on one thing and I will ramble about it for 45 minutes.
And then we'll be on Clubhouse for 3 hours.
Yes. So I'm trying to really focus in on refining what I'm going to talk about, creating that outline so I know, like, okay, hit these points, create it concise so that people know the message, they're still getting value, and I'm still coming across as that, you know, kind, loving, honest person, and they know, and that kind of translates through the camera.
So I'm going to slip like a product placement type stuff in here. Marketing time. Blue Talks actually helps with all of that. And the Experts Bootcamp that we just did on the weekend, we talked about for free. Like, the whole weekend is free. We talked about how to get paid speaking. We talked about how to monetize your books. We talked about how to pitch a podcast and use and leverage all of these things so that you can sell whatever it is that you're selling, whether it is a program or you speaking or another book, who knows, right? So I'm totally inviting you to our next networking. I really think you should come. There's so much opportunity there. You don't have to be a member. That stuff is free. Plus then, of course, watching the Amplify Your Message stuff, that's all free too. And you're getting involved. So I love that. Okay. And then it's just community is the second part of all of this. Knowing that there are people who don't necessarily have the same story as you, but resonate with your message to a point where they want to share your message too. So it's finding those.
Laura. Well said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm one of those people and you know it. It's like I constantly think of all of my friends who aren't in the Blue Talks yet, as well as the people in Blue Talks, and think, how can I share their message? How can I elevate the people around me? Because Corey did the same thing for me. In the moment of my business where I didn't know what was going on, I didn't know how to do any of it, he was one of the only people that said, I see you. I know what you're trying to do. I see your potential. I'm going to take you under my wing. And even on the worst days, the worst years, he would still message me and ask me how I was. And if I was interested in coming to networking or interested in doing this. And it wasn't just sales pitches. It was, come be a part of the conversation. I want to see you again.
Nice.
Right? And that in and of itself just feels so good that you feel pulled forward instead of trying to push through it all.
Blue Talks is an amazing community. It's one of the most, it's certainly one of the most beautiful, one of the most caring, kind, supportive communities, but it's also rare.
Yes.
And you can't say enough about that, because we've all been part of lots of communities, and the way Blue Talks has been built, I think, is pretty wow.
Come, Jacob, come into the fold. We'll love you just as much as the Clubhouse crew did. So, Jacob, I want to get back to you. We have about 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we're really highlighting. I did pull up that you had a podcast. Are you still doing the podcast, or is that on pause right now?
Podcast is currently on pause until I kind of figure out the direction I more so want to take it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was the direction that you were taking it?
The direction I was taking it was doing one-to-one interviews with people and learning more about their stories and what kind of fueled their passion. But like I said earlier, I got bored of that. So I switched to something else.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to figure out what lights me up with it and how I can best add value that also excites me and makes me excited to get in the recording studio and be like, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a conversation. Or if I'm going to just do it solo for a while and then occasionally have guests in, like, I got to see what I kind of want to do with it.
Yeah. The follow your joy, like we were talking about yesterday. And I do. Okay. I'm putting my own plug in there this time. Jacob, you and I have chatted before about how there's a difference between sharing your story or sharing your tools, which we all get caught up in. Oh my God, constantly. We're like, oh, I'm learning Akashic Records right now. I'm learning Reiki. Oh my God, I talked about the, law of attraction. We get so excited with the shiny object syndrome. But really, I do something called a story session for those who don't know. And I'm just starting to get back in my business, so I'm so excited. Where we talk about, well, why were you attracted to the Reiki? Why were you attracted to law of attraction? Why were you attracted to all of these tools that you're learning? And find that emotional journey that ties all of those pieces together, because that's really what you're trying to do with your life. And those are the people that you're speaking to. So it's on an emotional level. And the example I've been giving all week is one person is adopted and has abandonment issues. Another person is adopted and doesn't see it that way. They're perfectly fine. The difference is our perspective of that situation. So it's not your story or the details of your story. It's your perspective and your reaction to what had happened to you in your story. So diving into that kind of stuff will help you have a little bit more clarity just to get that energy. Since you said law of attraction, what is that energy behind all of these things that you're trying to pursue?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is so fun to me, because then we get to know the real Jacob, the Jacob that is consistent and continuous, because that part doesn't really change. You're always kind and honest and loving. I wanted to use your words, right? You just express it differently each and every day.
Very true. Very true. And I think that's a really good mindset to have, because when you're in a space of something happening to you, right? Like, you can either look at it in the negative or you can look at it in the positive. Mm-hmm. Or you can say, like, okay, if I'm having a bad day, or you can say, like John Maxwell says, I'm having a character building day.
Oh, I like that one.
I know. That's always stuck with me since I read it the first time. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. Like, there are no bad days. There's just character building days. And it's in those kind of, in those character building days, you hope you roll the D20 and you get max stats, right?
Yes. Thank you for the nerd reference.
You're welcome. But like, in those days, it's like, okay, I'm either going to grow from this or I'm going to let it eat away at me. And there's been so many times, and it's easier said than done. If you're someone who experiences depression or anxiety, like I do from time to time, like sometimes I get like really deep in it. Like yesterday was a day where I was just not feeling it. Aww. And like, to the point where I almost canceled this interview. Okay. Like, to that point, like I was really feeling it. Like, I went on like a 3-hour walk last night just to clear my head, and it was raining. And I was like, I don't care. I just need to clear this out, because I got to show up, number one, for my friend, and two, I got to show up for myself. And
if you canceled, we would have had a long chat.
Yes, that too. And I didn't want to deal with that. But like, honestly, like, if you're in this kind of space where you're feeling these, like you're in your head or whatever, you're having mad anxiety or whatever it is, like, mental health is something that I've been really diving down the road of a lot recently. And like learning from different psychologists and stuff about like why I think the way I am. And like, when I come to the realization that everything is just internal and it's my perception of that event that's happening, to use your words, Laura, that perception of the event that's happening, I can kind of take myself out of it, like use the NLP technique of just kind of like be outside and look on the inside and see what's happening and be like, is this actually true? Is this actually happening? And that's kind of what helps me through it. But your perception of that event is what will determine, and your mindset around it will determine how you move forward with it. So like, if you have something bad that happens to you, you can either say, like that abandonment issue, like, oh, I'm abandoned, like nobody loves me. Or you can turn around and say, well, this is an opportunity for me to start fresh. I'm starting new, I'm starting fresh, I have this amazing family, they're going to nurture me, and I can set my own path. Yep. As opposed to just getting into victim mindset and saying like, oh my God, everything's happening to me, all this stuff on the outside is determining how I'm going to let my life go, and like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, one of the words, sort of something that I'm thinking about a lot, and I have a feeling you are too, just based on what you're saying, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, is that sometimes I think we think too much and feel not enough.
Yes.
Right? Like, so it's just this notion of like, just letting go of like, I mean, just think about mental health. Like, you know, you just kind of think like, okay, stop thinking through everything, just feel it. Right?
Yeah, totally. And I'm bad for both. I feel a lot. Like I get really emotional about things and things that happen, like good, like on both ends of the spectrum. Like I get really emotional of like happy things, like to the point where I'll start crying out of happiness for something. And I'll get really emotional on the side of like negativity. Like if something bad happens, or if I think I hurt someone, or if someone was impacted negatively by something that I may have said, then I get emotional about that, because like, I don't want to be the person that has caused pain in somebody else. So I'll feel that. And then on the other side of it, I'll start overthinking about it. It's like, oh, well, what if I would have said this instead? And what if I would have said this? Or what if I would have done this? Or maybe I should have reached out to that person first. And it's just like, okay, shut up, brain. Like, you're already feeling it in your heart. Leave it alone. It's down there. Don't bring it up here too.
I want to tell a bit of a story about you, Jacob. When we were at the gardens in, is it in Toronto?
It's in Burlington.
Burlington. Okay, just outside Toronto. When we were at the gardens, I remember this one moment where he had reached up to a flower, just ever so gently pulled it down so that he could smell it. And in that moment, I was like, this scene is the epitome of Jacob. Like the loving kindness, not just for people, like plants, okay? What kind of guy cares about plants? Not very many. But then to treat the plants with kindness too. It's like, that's just Jacob. That's just Jacob. And I pick on you about that moment like all the time, because it's just
well, at least it's a sweet moment. At least I didn't like rip the flower off of its stem.
Yeah, it's like usually you like rip them off. No. Just gently pull down, smell it, put it back. And if I meet other people in person, you know, I'm going to bring up moments like these too.
Yeah. Well, at least they're all good moments. Number one, okay, you're a lot taller than I thought. That's a bonus. You're a lot kinder than most people. That's a bonus. You're gentle with plants and animals. Like, hello, is that not what every woman is looking for? Like, and I'm like months away from that 6-pack, so that's coming too. So like, hello.
That's great.
So Jacob, I want to go a little bit deeper and talk about your dreams. Okay. Now, here's the catch. They cannot be realistic. I want you to think crazy cool, genie snaps its fingers, whatever you're imagining is coming true. So what would you want to wish for in the next year that would be crazy cool?
Okay, like Earthbound, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Because I'm like, you know what? Turn me into a Super Saiyan. Like, give me that. But like unrealistic for Earth and like what can actually manifest in this world. Like I would love to be, you know, making like at least $1 million a year income, like minimum at least. Like I never put a cap on like, oh yeah, I want to earn $1 million. It's like, no, at least $1 million a year. I would love to be doing that. I would love to be traveling the world with the woman I love, with my daughter, with our families together, and just speaking on stages around the world, like impacting people, like being like, yeah, okay, like babe, we're going to be going to Hawaii, or I don't know, maybe not Hawaii because it just burnt down. But we're going to somewhere else. Yeah. Maybe not in a year. I don't think it'll be rebuilt in a year. But you know, going somewhere else like St. Lucia or something, and like, yeah, I'm going to be the keynote speaker at this event. Like, grab the kids, we're going. Like, we're going to have a fantastic time. And
my
like,
uncle has a villa there.
Who has a villa?
My uncle.
All right, cool. So we got a place to stay. Even better.
Yep.
But like, that's what I want. Like, I want to be speaking around the world. I want to be making an impact. I want to wake up each day with like a fire in me that says, yes, I'm so excited to do this today. I want to go out to whatever car dealership I want and buy the car I want just because I can. I want to be that person in the grocery store that, you know, sees like a person who's struggling to pay for their groceries and say, you know what, like go out and buy whatever you want. Like I'll go fill your cart, like do like some real Mr. Beast type shit, you know?
Yes.
And just be like, hey, oh, thanks for delivering my pizza. Here's a new Tesla, you know, like something like that, you know, just to be in that kind of financial abundance, to be able to give to other people, but also be in a space of love and compassion for myself, to continuously be growing of myself and being like, okay, Jake, you were here a year ago. Look at where you've come now, to like need that like telescope to be like, damn, Jake, like I cannot believe like that's where you were. Like if you would have just believed in yourself a little bit more and actually took action and consistency to keep going after it, like that's, you know, this is where you've come by doing that. And like, there's no better proof of like what that looks like than me, like even going to the gym. Like I've been in the gym now for about a year, and like the body impact, like I've dropped like 40, no more than that now. Geez, like 50 pounds. I think I dropped. I'm like, I'm strong. I'm capable, like strong mind, strong body, you know, and vice versa, strong body, strong mind. And just by doing it consistently, right? Like I didn't go to the gym once a week. I went to the gym every single day, or like at least 6 days out of the week, and put in the work, and it's come back. And that applies to every facet of life, right? Like if you want to be a speaker, like I do, start speaking, right? If you want to be a marketer, go out and market something, like learn something. Like that's why I've started coming back in with Instagram live videos, to get used to speaking again. And so in a year from now, like I would love to just be doing all that and like being like, yeah, I'm getting paid to do what I love, and getting paid well, enough to support my family, enough to support my girlfriend's family, enough to be in a space of like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll go out for dinner. I'll cover the bill because I got it, you know, to be that person. And just to do it out of like love and compassion and kindness without expecting anything in return. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, sorry, I'm going to go off on a little tangent, but I think a lot of people struggle with the ability to receive kindness, because there's this expectation in society that's been built up that if someone does something kind for you, they either want something out of you or they expect something back out of it. And for me, like when I do something kind, I'm doing it because I want to do it, not because I expect anything back, not because I'm trying to get on your good side. It's because I'm genuinely a good, caring person, and I just want to alleviate some stress off of your life, or I want to do it because it'll make me feel good to do it. As selfish as that sounds, like I'm doing it because it'll make me feel good to do it for you. End. End rant.
Mic drop. Wait. All of the pens.
Yeah. What do I got? I got a mouse. Mouse drop.
Okay, so Jacob, we have about a minute or so. Erek is on his way. He's just running just a little bit late. Can you tell us where we can find you on social media? You did mention Instagram. Is that your favorite way to communicate, or do you prefer?
Yeah. Instagram is probably the best way to communicate with me. I will be opening up my Instagram to public probably pretty soon. So right now, if you do want to follow me, you can just send me a request. But it's just my name, @JacobLethbridge. And it's on there on the screen so you can see it. If you want to check out my YouTube channel as well, it's the same. I got really lucky and got everything kind of as my name.
Wow. That's nice.
Yeah, even my website, JacobLethbridge.com. You can check that out. I got some courses on there that I created a few years ago. I think you can get a link to my book there as well. And yeah, that's the best way. Just @JacobLethbridge, anywhere you want to find me.
So what is your book?
My book is called Make Today Matter, A Guide to Living Life to the Fullest. And it's available on Amazon. So you should be able to get it there.
Yay. I love that you do all of it, and you're open and honest about the fact that I don't have my message dialed in. I just care about showing up, and showing up is like 80% of it. So
That's it.
yay, you. I'm so glad to have talked with you today.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Appreciate it.
Amazing. Great
Thank you. I
conversation.
appreciate you guys.
Did you want to stick around for a few minutes until Erek gets here, or do you need to go
Yeah,
right
I got a few minutes if you want to
Okay.
keep talking until Erek
Sure.
arrives.
Otherwise, it's just going to be Wanda and I chatting it up. Who
Yeah,
knows
no,
what
I'm good to talk for a bit longer.
We wouldn't want that now, would we?
I know. It's like putting two redheads like me and Megan in the same room.
Oh my God.
Always a
Never
disaster.
again. Never again.
Again. So did you have any comments about what we had talked about? Was there anything that stood out to you about our conversation?
Overall, it was a really good conversation. I feel like both of you were very easy to talk to. Well, Laura, I know for sure, but Wandana, I've never met you before, so this was the first, and you came in with some really great questions as well. And I think that the whole platform and the whole interview style that you guys are doing is incredible. I think it's a good way to reach out to new people and reach new audiences and add value to people. I think a lot of people that might be watching this or who will watch this in the future might get some value out of this. I hope they get value out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that without this kind of platform, people wouldn't get that kind of value, right? Or they'd be searching for it in some other direction. And kind of speaking to what Wandana was talking about earlier about how if you're just impacting one person and making that impact to, if you can impact just one person, then you've made a difference in the world because the ripple effect goes out. And it's what's crazy is I say that all the time in my Instagram videos. And when I talk about it, I say, you know what, like I do this, like I know I'm only reaching like 40, 50 people with each video, but like if I'm making an impact on at least one of those people, then I've done my mission for the day. Nice. Because who knows who that is going to impact in the future. So I see that Erek is coming in. So thank you guys so much for having me on. I will end my rant. And Erek, have a great time. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but have a great time, Erek. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you so much, Jacob.
Okay. Peace.
See ya. Erek, if you can hear and see us, just give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you to stage. We've been joking all week. We're like, you never know what's happening behind the scenes. You got to check.
That's why the show is rated M.
M for mature. We were joking this morning. We're like, uh-oh, Wandana and I are in the same room. We have to give a warning, rated M for mature. So welcome to the stage, Erek. Good to have you.
Thank you. Hey, let me get this.
Yeah. Oh, I've been having lighting issues all week. It's all good.
I'm actually curious to see what's going to happen when it gets dark in here. So dark outside, I mean. So.
Oh yeah, because you're in London. Is it 6 hours ahead of Eastern?
It's 5 hours ahead of Eastern today. It'll change in November.
So Erek, we've been playing with one of my favorite fun questions, and it's this. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what might those 3 words be?
Wow, great question. Hey, I would say enthusiastic, bold, daring.
Sorry, what was the 3rd one?
Daring.
Oh, okay. So enthusiastic, bold, and daring. Those are all new words, and I have not heard them before, and I'm loving all 3 of them.
Fantastic.
What caught me the most was the bold part. So can you tell us why being enthusiastic, bold, and daring means a lot to you in the work that you do?
Well, it means a lot to me because it's the way that I live life and what I try to promote and share with other people. I always try to teach people that the life that you desire to lead requires a tremendous amount of effort. It doesn't just happen. So in order for you to live that life that you desire, you got to create it. So when I say, being bold, when I say being enthusiastic, when I say daring, these are the things you have to do in order to create the life that you desire. It's very important to understand that. And that's what I try to share.
I love that. So then what is the work that you do that you get to embody all of these characteristics?
Well, what I get to do is I get to share with people that they have a passion and they have a purpose. And I try to share that by going around and speaking to people and helping them understand that within them exists this ability to live the life that you truly desire. Everybody has a passion. Everybody has a purpose. The problem is everybody don't understand how to obtain it. See, there's a knowledge gap. And when you have that knowledge gap, it prohibits you from being bold to take the necessary action that you got to take to go on towards achieving it. And that's very important to understand. Many people think, well, maybe I don't have the ability to do this, or maybe this wasn't for me. No, that's not the case. The case is we have a knowledge gap, and we're not surrounding ourselves with people who have accomplished what we're trying to accomplish. Therefore, we can gain information, or we can learn that information in other ways that we need to in order to achieve what we desire.
Now, many of us know that there is a gap that's preventing us to do the things that we know that we want and we love. But how can we help identify that gap?
The way you can identify it is you got to think about the individual. What it is you're trying to understand, that you're trying to achieve. First, you got to realize we have these unique selves. Everybody's a unique individual. And what I mean by unique is we have certain passions. You know, we have certain talents. And we understand that. And we learn from understanding it by one experiences. We learn from understanding it by gaining information and seeing the things that we're in. And we realize that, hey, there's something that really triggers me. There's something that really gives me excitement. There's really something that when I think about doing X, Y, or Z, you know, it just takes me to another level of, you know, ability to say, whoa, I really like doing this. You know, that thing that gets us totally enthused about what we're doing. So the hard part for us is understanding that these talents, these abilities that we have, how do we get connected to them? You know, how do we get information to help us push that another level, push that even further? That's the challenge, because when those things are in our everyday immediate environment, those resources or that information, we kind of move in a different direction and not really pursue what we're really passionate about or considering, you know, what our purpose is in this life.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question, Laura?
Of course.
Would you mind I just want to know what your background is.
Oh, sure. Fantastic. I'm a retired military officer. I'm also an educating professor. I'm also a, entrepreneur, and I'm a humanitarian. So I've done a lot of different things from the military sector, education, and also the business sector.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I know I interrupted.
Yeah, I assumed with the picture and the little tank in the background.
Oh, you love my tank. I love my tank.
It's so cute. Did you build it?
Say again?
Did you build it yourself?
No. Unfortunately, I had to purchase. It's a unique design, the exact replica of the N1A1 Abrams tank, in which I, used when I was in the military.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
Yes.
So you were talking about identifying some of these passions and purposes that we have. And sometimes we don't know that we like something until we actually try it. It reminds me of a friend of mine who always said, well, I don't like pizza. I don't like pizza. I don't like pizza for years. Then one day somebody asked him, well, have you ever tried pizza? And he said, no. So then, of course, all of his friends forced him to try pizza.
Yeah.
He was like, this is what I've been missing this whole time. Yes. If you don't try it, how do you know whether or not you like it or don't like it, or what your relationship to it is?
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting you bring that up, and that's so true. Too many times we kind of devalue certain things because we have no knowledge of it. And we think, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, or this is not me. How do you know if you never tried? And I think that's for me when I talk about being bold. That's what the military gave me the opportunity to do. The military is one of those professions where one, everybody don't want to do it. And secondly, the military don't want everybody else, So, people don't realize less than 1% of people serve in the military. So it's not something that, is for everybody, right? But what it takes is you got to be very bold and willing to challenge yourself to do things that are very uncommon, that are very uncomfortable. And I got into that environment. I realized, whoa, I kind of like this, doing these things where, it's not scripted or, when a different scenario, sure, we got a plan when we start. But once you get engaged with certain things, different things come up. I mean, the whole script goes out the window. You start ad-libbing. And that ad-libbing, now your training comes into play, right? And then you start responding to different situations, different things. So I realized early on at a young age that I have this adventurous side where I didn't like predictability. You know, I like to go off the script. I like to do things that really require me to challenge myself, you know, intellectually and physically, right? That gave me like a rush. And I realized this world that I'm in, this is exactly where I belong. You know, this is the place for me. And I would have never understood that if I didn't join the military. Now, the only reason I joined the military, because I was enthusiastic about doing something different in life. You know, I say, wow, man, I can get a job at any time. You know, I can go to, you know, let me go and do something that's different. One, let me serve my country, right? Two, let me get the venture to go to places I've never been to before. Probably never go to again in my life, right? And I say, let me try that. And guess what? You don't have to do it forever, right? But when I got that time, it was time for me to separate. You know what I told myself? This is giving me everything I want in life, right?
Yeah.
Give me something I'm passionate about, you know, something I'm enthusiastic about, provides meaning, provides satisfaction. Hey, let's continue to move on with this. You know?
Yeah.
And then long story short, you know, a career done ensued, right?
I have a question for you, Erek.
Sure.
When you were in the military, what were some of the moments that really struck you? That what are the most memorable things, or not all of them, but if there is something that really, you know, jumped out at you, is like, you know what, I learned a lot by going through this, or I learned a lot. This transformed me, or this made me think of things differently. Yeah. Is there a story like that you can point to?
Sure, most definitely. There's a support system in the military that's second to none. And what I mean by that is too many times we go through things and we try to figure things out on our own. But within the military, realize what we do, our mission, sometimes life and death, right? So therefore, you do your utmost to see other people succeed. You will do anything for them to see them succeed because you realize they will do the same thing for you. So there's a brotherhood and a sisterhood that exists in the military that is so empowering to make you be successful, right? So the thing that really sticks out to me, that is very supportive, as a young soldier, you know, being a tanker, you know, I had the fortune of being part of a platoon where the platoon sergeant, you know, this is the highest ranking person in the platoon. You know, he was a 15-year Army veteran, been to wars, done all this other crazy stuff. But the reality was he was very stern, very formal, very strict. He wanted things done the exact way. Why? He'd been through the fire. He knows what you need to be prepared for. So he really pushed you. Now, at a young age, that wasn't commonplace for me. Being uncomfortable wasn't commonplace for me. You know, having people challenge me in a way where, you know, I really had to commit to be the best at what I was doing really was foreign to me. And I had this individual who really pushed me to the upteenth degree and would not let up. Now, this is the funny part. You know, when we're in garrison environment, meaning when we're in the stateside, you know, on our home base, you know, I can ignore him at certain times. I don't have to see him at certain times. But when we were deployed somewhere, I had to see him all the time. And he was constantly on me. Constantly. To the point, you ever had someone, I think you can allude it to a parent, right? Young people don't understand why their parents push them the way they do. And they kind of get frustrated with them. He was the same way with me. Now, the military structure, I had to listen to what he told me. But he really pushed me outside of my comfort zone to the point, you know, I kind of detested him. He frustrated me. He really wanted me to be great at what I did. And he really pushed me. And what happened is I learned how to commit to things. I learned how, if I wanted something, there's a certain amount of effort that's required to obtain it. And it ain't happening unless I put forth that effort. This individual taught me that. And to make a long story short, you know, I share some with you, you know, some years later, you know, as a military, we only stay at a certain base, you know, 2-3 years, then we move on. Some years later down the line, you know, I was at a military officer camp at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And I had to go, we had to all, get our administrative, responsibilities in order. So we had to go to this particular office. And lo and behold, this individual who drove me crazy, right, who helped shape and mold me, he had retired from the military after being stationed in Europe over 20 years, came back stateside, and was now at Fort Jackson, South Carolina as an administrative supervisor and running the department. And we met. And the funniest thing happened that I never experienced in my life. There was so much profound joy I had for this human being. It's like seeing a dear lost friend, because this individual shaped me at a young age and helped me become who I became, So therefore, what did I do? I went on and became a retired military officer. I went and obtained 5 academic degrees, inclusive of my PhD.
Oh, wow.
I go around and try to mentor youth, understand and help them understand where they at in life and what they need to do to get to where they're going. I try to help individuals realize that with the life that they want to live, that passion that they have, it can be obtained. It all became because of this individual. And this individual pushing me to a point, the breaking point. Let me say that. He pushed me to the breaking point.
Yeah.
But he helped me reveal my true self.
I have to say that's an incredible story. You got to share that more. I don't know if you are, but you got to share that whole story more.
Sure.
And it reminds me of a quote that is one of my favorite quotes, and it says the man, but I have changed it to say the individual. The individual the individual at the top of the mountain wasn't placed there. Right? Yeah. Like it's all about the effort and the discipline and the like the ups and downs and the hardships, and you finally get there.
Yeah.
And not that there is only one mountain, but it's a metaphor, right? And it reminds me so much of what you're talking about. This guy pushed you to the point where he made you great.
Yeah.
And people when they believe there's potential in someone.
It's potential. See, that's the funny part about me. I know there's potential in everyone.
Oh yeah.
Right? So there's nothing someone can tell me they can't do.
Mm-mm.
No, it's when you determine to commit. Now, I want you to look at that picture on the back of me. This is my most profound picture. I mean, outside of my kids and my family. This is me leading my company as a company commander in the military.
Aww.
And why is this picture so profound? Because when I joined the military at the age of 18, as a enlisted soldier, I was the lowest rank in the military private. And I had risen to the rank, of a field grade officer. And now I'm leading organization, leading people. And I realized my mission was the same mission that Sergeant First Class Dauz.
Yeah.
The mission that he instilled in me. He understood my destiny.
Beautiful. That's a great way of saying it.
Picture, illustrates, when I look at it, it reminds me of my responsibility in this world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That story reminds me so much of the parallels with our relationship to fear. Fear is there to push us and to make us the best version of ourselves. It's not there to hold us back. Yeah. And yet we still play that lie in our heads that fear is the thing holding us back. We just have to ignore it. We have to set it aside. No, we need to lean into it because it cares so much about us that it only wants the best for us.
Yeah.
And so then we're shifting that relationship from fear being something to hold us back and transmuting the energy into excitement because it's the same in our body.
Most definitely.
Trying to redo his lights downstairs. Mine just switched. Okay.
We didn't notice anything, by the way.
Oh, like just everything turned red. And I'm like, what? I'll get him to do it later. I guess switch it back. Watch it turn again. It's all good. I love that story, Erek. It's so powerful. It also reminded me of the relationship that entrepreneurs have. Many entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship because of mental health struggles. And so before COVID, these are the numbers that I have. The general population, about 1 in 5 suffered from mental health issues. Service providers and veterans, they were 1 in 3, and the entrepreneurs were 1 in 2. Then COVID happened, and the general population is closer to 1 in 2.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man. But then it's that same camaraderie with you and your sergeant. It's the pushing of each other. And I want to use your words. We're so enthusiastic and we're so bold and we're so daring with what we do that we understand each other enough to want to push each other.
Yeah.
And to have that support and community that we all need to do better in life.
Yeah.
Just like your image. Like, I love that image. It was nice before, but now I feel the power behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much better.
Yeah, think about it this way. It's, I think I said it before. It's like a responsibility. Once we get, like you said, the wonderful story you shared, the person on the mountain, you know, it's like once you get there, now you realize your responsibility to go back and pull everybody up.
Yep.
Right? It's like so profound. And as a young person, guess what? I didn't understand that. Because when we're young, we just think about us, my ego, me. Mm-hmm. Right? And then now you get in a situation where other people are supporting you. And I call it mentorship. That's basically what it is. I don't care if you want to be wealthy. I don't care if you want to be a soldier. I don't care if you want to be an educator, business person. You need somebody to have been there to help guide you to get you to where you want to go, because you don't know everything, you know. So that mentorship, that's what the Army is to me. That's what the military service was.
Wasn't it Martin Luther King who said, the only time you want to look down on someone is if you're helping them up?
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really. I think it's he who said it, and I'm sorry I don't remember, but I'll never forget that. Never forget it. When you were speaking, Erek, one of the things that it reminded me of is, I've been asked quite often about, do I think everything happens for a reason? And I don't actually. But I really do believe that everything that does happen, make sure it has a purpose. Otherwise it happened in vain. So to me, that's like your story talks about that a lot. And, it kind of embodies that. So now when you're mentoring, you're lifting people up, you're making sure that their efforts have a purpose, their suffering, their trials, their, wins, there's, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, it all has a purpose. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Great way to put it.
So you mentioned that you were a speaker,
yes,
which I love. Yes. Have you dabbled in podcasting or writing books yet?
Well, guess what? I wrote a book.
Did you?
Yes.
Do you have it? Oh yeah, we need to see it. Have the courage to try. Ooh.
Nice. Right?
So courage has been a theme all week.
Yes. So I wrote a book, and then what I did, and then I started going out and sharing it, motivational speaking.
Yes.
So, I go out and I share it with individuals, organizations, students, schools. And I really talk about the power of understanding this learning curve that we have to embrace in order to get to where we're trying to go, and understand this misinformation that we have sometimes derails us, sometimes causes that fear to intensify because we don't know what to do. That's the biggest reason why many people don't achieve what they want. When you think about it, fear is one of them, but not understanding the steps to take, intensifies that fear. I don't know what to do. So when I titled my book, Have the Courage to Try, it was, even though we lack this knowledge, we lack this information, we're in this situation for a reason. Now let's push forward. Let's be bold. Let's go after what we truly want and desire, or we'll continue this life of being unfulfilled. And if you live that life, that's more regrettable than anything in the world to me.
I love that. When we had Jacob on just before you, we were talking about how he doesn't have his message dialed in yet, but yet he is still taking those actions to speak and do a podcast and write, because he knows that sharing what he does have right now is so important. And it
Yes.
takes courage to work through that and to figure out his message as he goes.
Yeah.
So true.
Love
And
it.
I also have a podcast too, titled the same thing, Have the Courage to Try podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Have the courage to try.
Have the Courage to Try podcast.
Okay.
Out on Spotify. So I put out weekly content on that.
You strike me as someone who is so expressive that you must command attention from when you speak. That's what I think.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but thank you so much.
Well, you're doing it. So
yeah, well,
it's
what I hope I'm doing, I hope I'm inspiring people to realize that thing that's burning in you that you want to do, you can do it. And you might not have all the answers, but guess what? That's okay. Nobody starts out knowing all the answers, you know? And I love the story with Jeff Bezos, right? We all familiar with Jeff Bezos. Believe me, he did not have all the answers when he began. And people did not know how long he was not making any profit before he became who he became. And guess what? That was that tenacity. That was that boldness. That was that enthusiasm about what you was doing and what you believe in until you find a way to make it become a reality. It's like we got to have that type of enthusiasm, that passion. Even when we feel lost, even when we feel we don't know what we're doing, we just got to keep taking one step at a time. I love the old stand, you know, a house is built brick by brick. You know, one brick at a time. You know, you think you can move it fast. It ain't happening because the foundation won't be sturdy. One brick at a time. And that's the way we get to where we're trying to go. So it requires patience, you know, requires support of other people, but requires our enthusiasm just to keep placing one brick at a time.
I have this analogy that I play in my head. I love visuals. I have to like play movies to help myself process information. So when I think about all of these walls that we build up as human beings with whatever had happened into our lives where we thought we needed them, I imagine everybody on like these little floating islands. And the only way to connect is to take down those bricks or those walls, one brick at a time, and then to start building a bridge with those bricks, those same bricks from both sides. And now you're meeting in the middle. And that's what it takes for you to bridge the gap between people, is to tear down your own walls and to use those same things to build something new.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Most definitely. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
I know. I'm having so much fun with these conversations. So Erek, I want to know a little bit about your dreams. I'm just double checking the time. We have about 15 minutes left. So I want to just play a little bit here.
Sure.
What would be crazy cool? Not logical. No, we're not going there. What would be crazy cool to happen for you in the next year?
What would be crazy cool for me to happen in the next year is for me to be getting booked once a week at universities and also high schools and sharing my message with students. That is something I'm really striving for. What I really began to understand is this fear that we start to develop, you know, this lack of courage, this lack of, you know, wanting to be bold, wanting to be doing things that's only comfortable. It starts at a young age. You know, we develop it at a young age, but it's something that we can change. We can transform our life if we choose to. But guess what? What if you get the younger generation to start to understand this early on, right? So therefore, as they get older, they don't have regret. You know, today we have far more people, adults, who are unsatisfied with their professions than they are satisfied. Why is that? There's only one reason, you know, because they don't have the courage to move their life in the direction that they really want to move it in. For whatever reason it may be, you know, but that's the reason. So when we go to work as adults, we're unfulfilled because we're not doing things that truly fulfills us. And the problem is we don't choose to change, you know, because that change requires courage, requires effort. Suppose you get young people to understand that early on. We can change the landscape of people and what they do in society and loving what they do. Can you imagine students going to school loving what they do because they understand they have a purpose? Can you understand adults see a vision of adults going to a profession that they enjoy because they understand what they're doing, their value and, you know, what they're contributing of service to the world, and not in a place where they feel I'm doing something because I have to, because of X, Y, and Z. That's empowering. It's about empowering your life, you know. And I love the saying, we start really being dissatisfied with our life once we start progressing, you know. So even though we get to that certain place, there's still more to go. You know why? Because once we achieve a certain goal, a certain plateau, we realize there's more we can contribute, more we can do, more of service we can be to others. You know, as I always like to share, you know, I came from an environment, you know, where I didn't have a lot of resources, a lot of access to things. You know what I could have did? I could have blamed everyone. I could have dealt with a lot of people my environment was doing. We don't have this, we don't have that, our circumstances this. But for some reason, somehow, I choose just to take responsibility. Okay. If I want my life to be this, I have to do this. And I just started taking one step at a time. From a young man with a high school diploma who joined the military, you know, who advanced up the ranks, who went to college, got his degree, because to be a military officer, you need your degree. So guess what? I went to school for 7 years to obtain my 2-year associate's degree. It took me 7 years. And then from that victory, I realized I can do it. Left the military, transition, went to school full-time, got my degree, bachelor's degree, then came back as a military officer. Then continued down that road and got a master's degree. Later on, got a second master's degree. Retired from the military field grade officer and got my PhD. Then got into the world of education, became a teacher. Then I became a professor, you know, and then I wrote a best-selling book. You know, and now I'm trying to amplify and share that message with the world, that you can do anything once you understand what you need to do to get there. Just taking one step at a time, brick by brick.
Yeah. What was it that helped you lean into the unknown? I know so many people have this fear type relationship with the unknown because I need to control in order to feel safe. I need to control in order to feel safe.
Yeah.
But through my experience over the last year, I've noticed that the unknown is the only place that has so much creativity that it can think up all of these plans that are right for me that I never could have thought of with my limited experience. So what has helped you lean into your unknown?
The first thing was reading books. I'm an avid reader. And what I started to read as a youth was biographies of other people. You know, how did this person get from point A to point B? And when I started to read those stories, what I realized, everybody was average, just like me. You know, everybody's average. Ain't nobody have, you know, this plethora of all these opportunities and resources. Well, they was average just like me. They just decided to move one step at a time towards their desired goal. And because I gained that understanding, I realized in order for me to transform my life and get to where I want to get to, a world where I can be comfortable, a world where I can be fulfilled, a world I can be financially stable, I realized there's certain things I got to do to get there. So for me, there was never an option to not move forward. Because if I chose not to move forward and stay in that comfort zone or that world in which we want to control, there's no such thing as control. You can't control anything, right? Only thing you can control is your effort. That's all I believe you can control. You can't control anything. But the reality is, where I was at in life, I didn't want to be. And I did not foresee growing older and living in misery, because I grew up around misery. I've seen older adults who were not fulfilled, older adults who was not satisfied with their life, older adults, you know, who talked the story, you know, I coulda, woulda, shoulda, you know. And I know what I told myself? What I told myself? I would never say that story. I would never say I coulda, woulda, shoulda. Only thing I'm going to tell you is what I did. So for me, I had to take every step. I had to be bold. But the best part, and I love this, and I realized this very own as a young person, I can fail. I can accept failure. I can't accept not trying. Yeah. Because I don't try, I can't get to where I'm going. It ain't even possible. But if I try and I fail, okay, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Or maybe I need to try a little harder, you know, or maybe I need to take a different route. but not to try was never an option.
Yeah. Oh, as a kid, I used to believe that being an adult, that rite of passage was you just knew everything. The wisdom of the world, adults, real true adults just know everything. So then when I was growing up, and I probably hit about 30, yeah, I got that long. That's when I realized that even those gurus of the world, they don't really know a whole lot either. Every single one of us are just trying our best to figure it out in the moment. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, so it's not just me that's constantly trying to scrounge and try to put things together. Everybody's like that. Now, if we take people who are trying to do the same scrounging in the same kind of arena, now all of a sudden you have that community that can build things and build better things together and faster. It's like, oh, now life all of a sudden doesn't seem so scary and it makes it easier. I think I'm now okay to ask for help. That was one of the things that stopped me. So was there a time in your journey here with the speaking, writing, podcasting, all of your message stuff, was there a time where you were afraid to ask for help?
I think I've reached a point once I've started this journey, I realized that's the only way I'm going to learn. I believe the smartest people in the world are the ones that ask the most questions.
Constant.
So it's like we really have to.
Oh my God, I didn't realize how brilliant I was.
Yeah, it's like we really have to transform this mindset and get people to understand, starting with youth, that to ask questions is okay.
That's right.
You asking questions don't mean you're ignorant. You don't know. No, I just don't know what that is. We all know something, but asking questions, I ask the most questions. As much as I can talk about what I've been able to accomplish and share that information, you know what I do the most when I'm around people, when I'm trying to gain something, when I'm trying to learn how to write a book, when I'm trying to learn how to do a podcast, when I'm trying to learn how to be a motivated speaker, I ask people who've done it. They're the people I lean on. And I ask them all the questions in the world,
Yes.
And then I illustrate that in the book. I illustrate my journey in this toward achieving everything that I've done. It was through leaning on other people. That was it. I didn't know how to get there. I just wanted to get there. But once I realized you don't have to let your ego hold you back from asking information that's going to help you get to the next step, to help you lay that next brick. Because what happens is it just slows you down. You're just running around in circles, trying to figure things out. Now, you can figure it out. It's just going to take a longer period of time. Why do I want to do something that's going to take me 10 years to figure out when I can do something and work with somebody who will help me get it figured out in a year?
Yep.
That's being intelligent. That's being smart. So I always tell people, and I always tell students in my classes, especially in my, it's so funny. You have people who are pursuing a doctorate degree, and I teach, people through the dissertation process.
Yeah.
And they don't believe they need to ask questions because, I figured out the professor don't want them to think I'm this way. No. And so what I eradicate very early on is we in this situation, this relationship together. Yep. I want you to lean on me. I'm going to provide you with information, I'm going to provide you with resources. But every little question you have, I want you to lean on me because I'm a resource for you. And when they get that understanding that I'm here to support them and help them get to where they're trying to go, our relationship totally changes. They realize they got somebody they can trust. They realize they got somebody that's going to help them get to where they're going, And that's a beautiful feeling. That's what that gives you. That gives you confidence.
Erek, one of the questions that I have for you, just based on what you're saying, is how do you get the people that you're mentoring to figure it out for themselves?
What you mean figure out for themselves, what they want?
Well, let's say they you're saying that they ask questions and asking questions is critical. But I guess my question is a little bit the opposite, I guess, is that I'm an unapologetically curious person. So I believe in asking. But what I'm asking is, so I do think that's important, but the flip side of that is, and this is actually, I'm I would like to learn this from you if you have a suggestion, is that how do you get people to figure it out for themselves? like, how do you not give them the answers, even though they're asking the questions? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you put it to them in a response that says, I'm doing this, and this is how you're going to figure out what the issue is, or what the problem is, or what the solution is. It's as a professor too, I'm really curious if you deal with that a lot.
Yeah, you do. Now, the one thing let me share something. Nobody has the answers for all your life.
Right.
That's not the reality. That's not what I'm illustrating here at all. I'm illustrating, if I want to build a snowman, this is how you build it. I built a snowman before, right? But all those answers you have about your life, the direction you're trying to go and what you're trying to do, you don't have the answers for it. And nobody has that for you, right? So there's going to be a sense of being uncomfortable. Now, what I'm trying to convey is the things that I can lead you to support you. Now, being a researcher, I can always provide you with information. So you can go, okay, I want you to look at this book. Here's a link to this site. And what that does, that puts you in a position of ownership, because now you have to put the work in. Now I have to go and read this information, and then I can analyze and make sense of it for myself. And now I can have a discussion with maybe Dr. Clacks or somebody who you want to have a discussion with. So it's not providing. So I want to clear that up. It's not me just providing you with all the answers. No, it's not giving you all the answers to the test, because you don't learn nothing that way.
That's right.
It's leading you down the road to help you, investigate, so you can make sense of what you're trying to find an answer to.
Yeah. And I guess through that process, you learn how to figure it out, right?
That's the best. Yeah.
That's the whole magic.
That's the magic, because you have to grasp the understanding of it for yourself. I can explain something to you in a way that I understand it, and you might not get it. But if I give you the resources and you do the work, you can make sense of it yourself. Then we can have a discussion, because now you got questions based off of knowledge that you wanted to. And I'd like to share this real quick. One of the most difficult, challenging subjects for many students in school is math. Why is that so challenging? Math, if you understand it and you put the work in, for me, it's not very challenging. What it is something that you have to really put work into to grasping. And you got to continue to build on it. Math does nothing but scaffold. And if you don't do that and you miss steps, it becomes challenging, because you know how math is. If you don't use certain steps, the answer ain't going to come out right. Right. And that's the same reality in life. It's like this challenging thing that we're trying to figure out. It's a process to figuring it out. And we just got to go about it step by step. Right. And then guess what? We get to that age of 30 where we think I'm adult now and I know it all. We realize, well, I don't even know. I don't know half of it. I don't know a quarter of it. It's like we're still growing and developing. So I can speak very profoundly on what I've done, but there's still so much I'm trying to learn myself. And I think that's the beauty of it. That's a part of being human. And that's the part of living, because we want to continue to progress into our greatest self, into our greatest purpose, whatever that purpose may be. And it ain't got to be just one unique thing.
That's right.
For me, it's always been, as a service member, I'm a servant leader. And I understand that.
So, Erek, we have about a minute left. Where can we find you, and what is your favorite way to communicate?
The best way to find me is at www.erekclacks.com, right at my website. The best way to communicate with me, you can reach me through my book and email. That's right on that website also. And also, I got a YouTube channel where I place videos too. So when people direct message me, I try to respond to those messages also.
Nice.
Awesome.
And just to close, Wandana, I got you. Okay. I wrote down his quote: "The smartest people in the world ask the most questions." Yes. I loved that. So if our listeners can write that in the chat, I would love to have that written down. So I just want to say thank you so much, Erek, for joining us and sharing the story behind your photo and just all of these wonderful nuggets today. I think today has been my favorite day all week. And wonderful. Usually it's hard to top some of the conversations, but this was delight.
It's been awesome. Thank you.
Glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. Thank you so much.
Great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I hope to see you again soon.
Most definitely. Looking forward to it.
Bye, Erek.
Bye-bye. Take care.
So Nicole, I'm just going to double check that you can see us and hear us. And if you can, just give us a thumbs up if you're ready. Awesome. I will bring you to stage. I'm liking that photo. Sorry, painting. I'm looking at painting. And it would be even better if you painted it. Did you?
No. However, no, don't worry about that, because the best story is when I buy a painting, I like to know the artist and meet the artist. So this is by a local artist in Ottawa.
Wow.
Nice. Oh, that's even better.
Gorgeous.
I love trees. And of course, I'm from Canada too. So like snow
Yes.
sparkles in my eyes. Every little bit of snow is just a bit of sparkle.
It's kind of hard. It's 5 feet tall.
It looks pretty
Wow.
big.
And I'm not an artist. Like, I love supporting local artists, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will sit on my sofa here sometimes and just gaze, like in pure awe that she's able to capture like the depthness in the painting. And that's when I just celebrate. Like, everyone has their own gift. And I'm so glad that I get to have this in my living room, because it is a constant conversation piece for people who are, it's drawn. It's hard to know but you can see the blue in the turquoise.
Yes.
Yep.
Turquoise is well, look at the blue logo. So it's just that blue, you're just drawn into it. And it's, yes. And birch trees. I don't know what it is about birch trees.
Yeah, you're right.
I know.
Really cool.
So yeah.
I think it's because there's less bugs under the bark, and so we're more comfortable.
Maybe.
And because the bark is actually used to create a lot of things.
Yes, I have a birch bark basket.
Oh, do you?
Wasn't birch the tree that Bambi and her mother ate in the winter?
Yes.
Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
The
I do.
the movie.
Yep. Disney movie. So what a side conversation. But I love all of it, because now we get to know a little bit about you, Nicole, that isn't just your business. I find many of these business chats are just like, how can I pull out the value of Nicole and just use her for all of her insights? I want to get to know the human being behind the business, so that when you do share your tools and expertise, we know the lens from which you're viewing it.
Yes.
We get to go, oh, okay, well, I may not resonate with the tools and skills that Nicole has, but I resonate with Nicole. And so I'm going to support her, even though it's not right for me.
Oh,
Right?
and I love that, because it's a perfect segue, because this painting brings me joy.
Yeah.
And everything in my home is something that speaks to me and makes me smile.
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks to the larger message around self-care and how accessible it is to everybody. Because you wouldn't associate a painting on your wall.
I would.
Oh, okay. So
I very much would, yes.
Yeah, but that whole idea of joy can be so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And the energy, the color, why we're drawn to certain things, it doesn't matter, right? So we all have things in our home that make us warm and fuzzy.
Okay, lately, lighting. Okay, so lately I went to a local shop, because of course I love to support local too. And I found these little trees made out of crystals.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm doing new branding colors, which is the dark green. And of course, the orange of my hair. You have that too?
So my base is
Amethyst. Oh, nice. Mine's just recycled wood.
No, but it's still, that's why I got up off my chair. So I was like, we're tree sisters.
Cheers. Oh
See?
my God. Yeah.
Anyway.
And just like these small little things bring me joy. Because I'm allergic to most metals. So silver is one of those metals that I can wear. So when I saw the silver with my branding color on the tree, I was like, I need this in my office.
Yes.
And then one of the other things that brings me a lot of joy, since we're on that conversation, is lilacs. I have been searching for months to find something with lilac in it. And I found this candle. I did not smell it all day yesterday. And then I did a meditation with Beth, who is one of our co-hosts earlier this week. I could smell it for the first time without, shoving it next to my nose. The joy that comes from just the smell of lilacs.
Yes.
But is it that hard to find stuff with lilac?
Yes.
Okay,
Because lilacs really
amazing.
only bloom here for about 3 weeks out of the entire year. And then
you're not
lilac
looking
is
for
such a
real
delicate
lilacs.
flower. You can't get the oil out of it. You can't get an essential oil with it.
Got it.
Yeah. So then they have to synthetically create it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the same.
Laura, where are you located?
I am not in the city anymore. So I used to be in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and now I'm in Truro, Nova Scotia.
Bridgewater, born and bred.
Bridgewater, my brother's in. We're gonna have to connect afterwards, and we'll geek out about that.
Yeah, no, because that's where I spent my 2 weeks holidays. So we drove down because my 2 brothers and parents are still in Bridgewater.
Nice. Okay, cool. This is even better. So then I really want to get into like what it is that you do. You mentioned self-care. We've been talking about joy. And I love that joy is a part of your message because we have been talking about it this week. What is it about joy that really serves people in their lives?
I'm just going to step back one and say I am a self-care coach.
Okay.
And self-care is a very divisive word. I have learned it triggers people. And so a lot of the work that I do, because I am a proud mother of a daughter with a rare genetic disease and autism, my parenting journey has looked different than what I originally planned.
Yes.
And what some parents have experienced. So I use all of that lived experience and my own journey of allowing myself to take time for myself, giving myself permission that, actually, it was listening to my body that was kind of screaming at the top of my lungs and ending up in an emergency ambulance because my body had shut down on me. But following that, realizing the importance of self-care. And then I thought, when we strip everything down, what is it? So my philosophy around self-care is any activity that brings you joy. And when I approach it from that lens, people are like, oh, I like that. Like that lands, that makes people warm and fuzzy versus the word self-care is a little bit standoff because of media and how it's portrayed and kind of shoved down people's throats.
Yeah.
And so I find it much more empowering when we talk about things that bring us joy, because then the philosophies that I have around self-care are, it's accessible to everyone. There's no right or wrong way to do it. We all deserve it, and there are no comparisons. So the cheeky example that I like to use is cuddling with my cat. Is a daily, see? Think about a purring cat, right? It actually it just helps calm our nervous system, lower our blood pressure. However, then if you were allergic to cats, you would be like, well, no, thank you. And so that's why I say there's no comparison, because we get to choose what brings us joy. Well, usually our body lets us know if we're in tune and we are really listening to ourselves and we capture those 5 senses. Like I loved that you use the example of the candle, because we forget how powerful our senses are, especially scent. And so just creating that environment where we have access to these very small things that make our hearts smile and comfort us, those are all self-care activities. So that's what I do.
Nicole, I sorry, I have to ask you this because it's on my mind. So I got to ask you.
Please.
So oftentimes, at least my perception is that when we talk about, needing more self-care, it starts from a position of weakness, that we didn't have it. We're not taking care of ourselves. It's like it starts from a negative standpoint. And I really like this idea that you have of just things that bring you joy. It's almost like I don't want to call it self-care because it's got such a stigma attached to it. But it feels like, you need self-care when you haven't been doing it. And so, I mean, does that make any sense to you? Like, have you seen that?
So yes, it makes perfect sense. And yes, I have seen that. And I actually had people suggest to me at the beginning, don't call yourself a self-care coach. People don't like that word. And what I thought was, how about I continue to use that word and just blow it up? So one of my presentations to corporations and organizations is called, Why is Self-Care Such a Divisive Word? So I call it a red herring. And in the sense of, I said, oh, the real issue, because self-care is how we show ourselves that we love ourselves, isn't the word. It's the fact that people don't believe they're worthy. And that's why it really triggers people. Or it challenges the stories that they've told themselves. I'm too busy. I can't afford it. People have no idea what my life is really like. So that's why I use my position or my experience as a caregiver. And I'm like, yeah, give me your excuses. Tell them to me. Let's, and I'll show you how I've had those same negative thoughts, but guess what? They weren't self-serving or they weren't helpful. And so it's not superficial self-care. Like, I dive deep. So we're talking about the emotions and our mindset and our boundaries and all of these things. And it is true that if you are feeling overwhelmed and stressed, your first reaction could be, don't tell me I have one more thing to do. And that's quite possible that person's not ready. But for the person who is ready, I believe that they'll be like, oh, she's been where I've been, and she's actually moved the marker, and I no longer want to stay in that victim mode, or I no longer want to feel stressed and overwhelmed. If Nicole is telling me as a parent caregiver that I can actually access joy on a daily basis, maybe I will take a moment to see how she presents it or how it is in fact available to me. So that's why I said it is very divisive, because it gets to the core of how we feel about ourselves. And we're all walking around with some trauma, with some very deep wounds. And so thank you for asking that, because it is, I've heard many a response, and it's really just meeting people where they are and recognizing some people just aren't ready for this message.
I totally get that. One of the other questions that I had for you is, when I think about the world that we're in today, we are realizing the importance of mental health or self-care or self-awareness or whatever all the fields that you want to go down. And I often wonder if all the history that's come before us was like this. It just seems like it's more pronounced now. And in terms of our recognition of what the different things are, do you think that there's any wisdom from all the past that we've had that would help us?
Ooh, wow, what a juicy question. My brain is just, so how I believe the most honest answer is, as women, I believe we now have permission to talk about this in a way we haven't. So when we talk about past generations, I think of my grandmother, and And she was born in the late 1800s. She's since passed. She passed on her 99th birthday. But when I did a eulogy, when I was writing, I said, what's happened in the last 100 years? What did she get to experience? And I thought, voting for women?
Yeah.
The things we take for granted. And that means she had so fewer choices. She worked, so she not only was a nurse, she became a head nurse in addition to raising 3 kids, in addition to having an alcoholic husband, in addition to taking care of him when he fell sick, etc. And no one really listened. There weren't these groups and ability to go online and share. So I think it's a bunch of different things coming together. And I am so grateful that I am on this planet as Nicole in 2023, that we can have these conversations and really talk about what we want individually and how that matters, while still acknowledging the importance of community and supporting each other. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think of the wisdom of generations.
Okay.
You know, and I think, you know, they like, what were the lessons that they learned in terms, or they practiced in terms of self-care, that maybe I would love to learn more about, you know?
Yes.
And that's kind of where that comes from. And it's not just about self-care, by the way. I think about this in many instances. But I wonder if it's, and I don't think this is right, but it's not the only right thing, but wonder if it's also a time thing, you know, because I think self-care, when I think of it, okay, I got to spend time on this, on self-care, so I can't do this. So there's something I have to give up for it. Right. So is there any truth in what you've, like, in that? I know that's how I think of it sometimes. And I am one of your guinea pigs for sure.
No. So how I'm going to answer that is, I do believe it is a reflection of time, because when I speak about self-care and I work with my clients, I'll say, Laura, you are a daughter, you're a friend, you're an employee, and all of these names, they're roles. But I want to work with Laura, and I want to empower Laura, and I want to give Laura the tools to love herself more, to become aware of what she wants, and actually ask her the question. Give her permission to ask herself the question, what makes me happy? I don't think these discussions were going on a few generations back. So that's why I think it's so intricate how we build.
Yeah.
And when we ask ourselves what makes us happy, or what do I need in my day, then we talk about setting boundaries, acknowledging what we want as an individual first, before we look at all of the demands of our different roles.
Excellent.
And I also talk about harmony. I do not like the word balance.
Yes, thank you.
So for me, it's about harmony, whether it be seasons and days. And the perfect example is, I have a 17-year-old son, neurotypical, in addition to my 15-year-old daughter who needs constant supervision. So I have thrown balance out. But what the harmony is, it's the quality of the time that I spend with my son, and ensuring that I am present and fully engaged, allows me to have more comfort in my heart that there'll always be an imbalance of time and attention. So that goes back to the self-care discussion, because if you know that November and December are really busy months for you, you may choose that, oh, I can't do self-care daily, we'll just say. But every or once a week, I'm going to do this thing for myself. But then when the new year comes, some of those pressures lessen and you're like, okay, now I'm going to recover from those really busy months and give myself more rest.
You know what I love about what you're saying is so much of this is intangible.
Yes.
People think of everything as in self-care as being like taking care of yourself, actually.
No.
But it's so much more about the mind and the essence of who we are. And I love that you're bringing attention to that. I really do.
Oh,
I think
thank
it's very cool.
Because what you're picking up on is the change, like when we change our mindset or our perspective on how we view something, how empowering that can be.
Mm-hmm.
So often, because I support family caregivers, I say you can access, not do, you can access moments of joy without leaving your house, without spending any money. And for some people, without leaving the room of your loved one whom you need to watch over. And then that really, people are like, what? But media is telling me I need to do this. I'm like, yeah, but that's, and this kind of goes back to blowing up all of the myths or debunking those myths and removing all of the barriers. So people are like, oh, do I have any reason now not to do anything for myself? And I hope the answer is no. And just because self-care is simple does not make it easy. I'm not trying to downplay people's challenges. Like there are some days where my best efforts, I'll be like, oh, time for bed. I actually didn't get to that. And that's okay. I mean, life is constantly teaching us. But it's that every day is a new day. And it's just overall, I believe it's a lot around intention. Right?
Yeah.
I love what you said about balance versus harmony. When I think of balance, I think of like a seesaw. Like, so there's always a negative and positive force. But when I think of harmony, it's creating beautiful music together. Right?
Exactly. And balance is often, I associate balance, and you said the seesaw, that means two things. Versus harmony.
Yeah.
Who in life only has two things?
Yeah.
Love it. Everything has a voice, and everything
is everything, isn't it?
Exactly. I laughed because my daughter and I have been watching RuPaul's Drag Race, and one of the queens in her rap, she was like something along the lines of thighs rubbing together like they harmonize. And Nicki Minaj was there as the guest judge, and she's like, that was magic, and I'm stealing it. But I'm thinking the same thing, like some of those things in our lives where they can be annoying for us ladies who have thighs that rub together, right? But at the same time, those annoying things can come in harmony with everything else in our lives. Yeah. So then how do we make that mindset switch from this is really shitty and it hurts to like, damn those curves, bringing up stuff from earlier this week.
No. And I think it is just taking the time to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Like how often do we take some time to really think about whether it either be nothing? Because one of the self-care activities I'm embracing is allowing the mind to wander. Like that, there's been resistance around that for me because like, okay, well, that's really not productive. But research is showing that, so for example, when I go on my walks, I would usually listen to a podcast. I'm like, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to do two things at once. I'm going to learn more, educate myself while going for a walk. Yep. So what the research is saying, and what I've actually noticed, I'm actually not taking in my walk because I'm so focused. And so I went for a walk without my podcast, and I was listening to even music. So nothing in my ear, nothing distracting me. And I was like, wow, it was a different experience. Like how simple, like talk about bare bones self-care. is going for a walk without our phone. And it was a different experience. And what the research is showing is by allowing our mind to wander, if you believe in magic questions in the universe, then we're allowing time and space to happen where now these connections will take place, or the idea will pop into your head, etc. And it's, have you ever had an idea while you're washing the dishes and you're like, really?
Constantly.
And it's the same thing. And so, wow, I don't know how we got down that rabbit hole, but it's really talking about another wonderful example of what self-care actually is, and how we can really change the discussion and our perception. Because we do love ourselves, though sometimes we are our own worst enemy.
Oh, yes.
And it's the empowering part.
I want to touch on
Go ahead.
the idea of, you said you're basically making people question about the word. You're pushing back on people's initial reactions to the word self-care. How do you, or how have you leaned in to that idea that you are challenging the way people think? Like, if they just took one sentence of what you're trying to share with people about self-care, if they just took that one sentence and they don't see that it aligns with their initial understanding of what self-care is, and they put up that wall, since we've been talking about walls too, how do you lean in to that idea that you are pushing, that you are a rebel, and that you are challenging mindsets?
I love it because and this isn't an overnight thing. I believe that my tribe, my people will find me. And it's aligning with my own personal growth and me learning to set boundaries, to say, it's okay, Nicole. Not everyone's ready to hear your message. But what I will add is what I love after doing a presentation and the
Yes. Yeah.
And that one action item that I've done in that presentation has allowed someone to shift their perspective. And they're like, oh my gosh, in 45 minutes, I have expanded their lens and their perspective on self-care. And I've given them like freedom, and they're excited. And and an example, without an example, it may not be as tangible, but my favorite one is changing the word I can't to how can I?
Yeah.
So, a perfect example with my daughter, I'm like, I can't go this weekend because XYZ, versus how can I go this weekend?
Yeah.
And that is the simplest of shifts. But if we strengthen that muscle, and then I explain to people that when we say I can't, the mind says, oh, she says she can't, and it's done.
Yep.
Versus we flip it to a question and we say, but how can I make this happen? Then behind the scenes, our brain continues to search for the answer in the universe. It's almost like that magic question.
Yep.
And then lo and behold, opportunities arise and present themselves that wouldn't have if we would have said, I can't, and just period, end of discussion. And so that itself has been very freeing for people. And it's one of my favorite. And I'm so proud to say that my 17-year-old son actually uses it as well.
Yay! I did the same thing, but instead of switching it to the exact words that you use, I switched I can't to what would it take to? Which is very similar. It's the same kind of energy, because I don't remember where I heard this, but somebody had made the analogy that your mind is like a Google search. So every question you have, every thought that you have, it's typed in, whether you want it to be typed in or not. So then what does your search history look like? What are the patterns that you're seeing? Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they helpful? Are they unhelpful? Are they focused on the things that you actually want to be focused on? It's eye-opening.
It's interesting. I'm totally with you guys on this, because in like one of the things that I write in my book, actually, and it's called Might, funny enough, is one of the questions I ask is, how might we?
Exactly. There
Right?
you go.
It's the exact same thing. So I'm so aligned with you guys.
Oh yeah, there's a difference between closing our mind off and closing our heart and our body off versus finding those ways to open it. And that's
Abundant
exactly what
possibility.
mindset switches. Yeah, it's how can I open? How can I open? How can I open?
Yeah, love it.
And I think important context is for parent caregivers. No one signs up for this.
No.
So when we become a parent or a caregiver in general, so much control is taken away from us, and it's a very traumatic event. And so a lot of caregivers at the beginning, it's shock. We're in survival mode. There's trauma associated with that. And so it's very scary and vulnerable to think in the manner of, how can I?
Yeah.
And so I do understand why the I can't is embedded, because I've been there, but it's the only way to shift and to find solutions is to start asking the question, how can I? Or how may I, or might I, or how do we make this possible? And then then I encourage people to start looking for those answers or connecting the dots. Oh, that was just a coincidence, Nicole. Like, oh, no, it wasn't.
So, Nicole, can I ask just a brief question? You've talked a lot about self-care for the parent with a challenging situation, especially given your personal history.
Yeah.
But it strikes, and I just want to bring attention to this, because I think that there are so many other difficult traumatic situations that parents go through, in terms of, a child who has got a drug addiction problem,
Yes.
or, something happens to the child, like those kinds of things. So I just want to just say that I think what you're doing is really beautiful. And I think it's applicable to so many different kinds of situations.
Yes. Oh, thank you. And I do agree. I do believe that my message resonates with people who are ready. I've had, with my book, I had, parents or working professionals who are workaholics, or anyone who's looking to, who doesn't want to add more joy to their life, or just, tools and strategies, etc. And I giggle, because I'm like, a lot of the time I'm just giving people a permission slip to say, you matter. You are allowed to take some time for yourself.
And it's okay, even if you don't have children, to practice.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. And so with me, with my niche and my message, and that's what I focus on because of my lived experience. But I do agree that
breadth of application. Yeah. Huge.
We had mentioned about the 5 senses earlier, and I was just thinking about my candle again because it brings me joy. But I love that you're a speaker, and I love that you understand the 5 senses and this self-care, because some of the subtleties that we can share as a speaker to help people become more ready is to speak in terms of senses, and especially the sense of smell. Because for those who don't know, the sense of smell is the only sense that bypasses all of those mental filters, your reticular activating system, because it goes directly to your brain. There's no stopping it. So then when you bring in, those situations where you're talking about with those certain smells that help identify the clarity of that moment, it doesn't matter if people are connecting with your story or not, they go there because of the smell. and their
Yes.
relationships to those smells. So if you say, oh, I was in a coffee shop and you could smell the coffee throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to borrow that. I love that.
You bring them there immediately. Like they just
Amazing.
get it.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, no, I am so
psychology.
going to add that to
love
my presentation. I never thought of that as an opener. I've done the visualization of being on a beach and like hearing the waves, and I do smell the sea salt, but I love that not everyone has access to, like I grew up on the East Coast, but I thought something more, whether it be like asking people to think of their mother's favorite dish that she makes and the smell like that, where everybody has it. Ooh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so cool, Laura.
I love all of this. Like I will geek out on all of the neuroscience.
It makes me think of like if I'm touching something, there's an interpretation before I actually go. It goes to my brain as such. There's like a travel that you have to go through.
Yeah.
But
this is why what's it called? Like essential oils are so powerful for people. But you have to put in the work to figure out how your body reacts to that smell. If it doesn't have a memory for you, because that's what we're really trying to do, is we're trying to bring up those memories or situations so that we connect on an emotional level, not about the story, as we've mentioned many times this week. But I love the smell of lilac because emotionally for me, lilac is the smell that would happen right as school would end. It would be my little oasis of relaxation before my parents made me do things over the summer.
Okay.
Right? So just as school is ending, the lilacs are starting to open up. And then I would have a couple weeks to do whatever I want before my parents would put me to work, before I'd have a job, before we traveled somewhere. That was my peace and relaxation. And so now every time I smell lilacs, it automatically brings my body to that grounded feeling where I'm like, summertime relaxation. Like everything is going to be okay.
Wow.
Every single time. Yeah.
I think for me, if going back to childhood, it would be wood burning stove. I'll go out now for a walk in the evening because now that it's fall, I'll be like, because so few people have wood burning now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if they've been to a bonfire, it's so comfy and cozy. You're just like, I'm warm. And it like the fire is hypnotic.
It is totally hypnotic.
Every time.
Yeah.
I love where this conversation is going. We have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that we touch on the different ways that you like to share your message. Did I hear that you're a speaker and an author?
Yes. Okay. I have a book, a surprise. It's actually called Self-Care.
Who would have thought?
Okay. I know. But it's the subtitle.
I was going to ask.
From the trenches, with love, humor, and a kick in the pants. Speaks to my personality.
Yes, it does.
And I speak at both caregiving organizations and larger organizations and corporations, talking about what we've just spent the last hour speaking about, is how self-care is really accessible to all, and doing some interactive activities that, and I love it, employ people, they jump in, they engage in the chat, which then inspires other people. And what I say is, I share my self-care activities as inspiration. So if you are earlier on in your journey and you're like, I don't even know where to start, I'm like, you can borrow some of mine until you get really comfortable, and then you can really find out what brings you the most joy and implement those. So I do that. I have a YouTube channel and my website. So Nicole Dauz, at Nicole Dauz, I keep it very simple. And I find, because this is, we go deep, and I find video works better. Sometimes when you read something, if you read, you must do self-care, that comes across a little harsh, but if I'm like, you must do self-care, then people understand the intention behind those words.
Exactly. That's why I love the video interviews, People are like, oh, is the podcast just audio? Oh, no. Like, you gotta get the smiles, the facial reactions, the body language, because this is like more stuff about speaking, right? Most of communication, like 50% of communication, is nonverbal. So you're missing half of it if you don't have that video. And then if you put it into text form, you're missing like 75% of the communication. There's just so much that's missing. So I love this kind of form, and that's why I love speaking. Why did you choose speaking and writing? Why not just do art? Why not write poetry? I don't know.
Stick with what you're good at. I do enjoy speaking, I believe, when it comes from the heart. So my background, I have a bachelor in public relations and comms, but that doesn't mean everybody enjoys speaking.
Yes.
But because I started my career doing media relations, being a spokesperson for the government for 7 years, on very divisive files like Indian residential schools. So anytime I did an interview in the back, I would be like, please don't ask me a question I don't know the answer to. Or I always felt like I was on the hot seat.
Yes.
But self-care, this is like my passion. This is my purpose.
Mhm.
So I can't get it wrong. So I actually love speaking and sharing to inspire, because I know that when I needed a message and I needed to feel that I wasn't alone on this journey, having someone share their story made such a difference to me. So I'm just paying it forward.
So then we have about a couple minutes where I really want to cover what would be crazy cool to happen for you, Nicole. Again, we're not talking logical or realistic. I want you to think big. What would be crazy cool to happen this year? Or I guess
this year would be to book one speaking gig a week, a paid speaking gig every week. And then I could just transition to be a full-time entrepreneur and even support and help more people.
Do you have a dream stage that would be a part of that?
What do you mean by dream stage?
So you said that you wanted to speak more about every week. So
then dream. Oh, sorry.
The dream gig?
No, but thank you for asking that. I will process that and write that down tonight.
Yeah. It's like a friend of mine, she said her dream gig was speaking at the UN.
Oh.
And then she made it happen.
Okay.
I know. I was like, mind blown, like so quickly. So then that's why I want to ask these questions of other people.
I love that.
What is crazy cool in your mind can be so realistic for the people that you know that can help you do that. So by asking and you telling us what might be cool, people listening might know how to help you with that.
Well, I believe, so the cool thing is 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, I'm moderating 2 panels at Canada's very first Canadian Caregiving Summit.
Oh, wow.
Now, a year ago, that would have been a dream.
Okay, nice.
So I am actually going to be facilitating and moderating a panel with executive directors of organizations that were on my dream list.
Amazing. Amazing.
I know.
So
So I do believe in the power of manifesting, and I take your challenge seriously. I'm not sure. I think that there's so many opportunities. I'm like,
Yeah. I don't have necessarily like a specific venue or a specific audience. I have a specific feel that I'm looking for when I have my dream. Like I want to be on a stage and there's like 3 tiers of audience, and like I have the whole setup, the whole situation in my head, but I don't know what the location is called.
Yeah.
I don't know what the event specifically is. I just know the feel and the video in my mind.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So what I've thrown out to the universe is I want to be world renowned. I want to be one of the top people who's like self-care speakers.
Ooh.
So that when somebody meets a caregiver, they're like, oh, you need to connect with Nicole Dauz.
Aw.
check out her website, go to her channel. And then that's how I've positioned my dream.
You want to be the Nicole Dauz of self-care, like Kleenex is the name for tissues.
Yeah. I
Band-Aid,
do.
gypsum board, and jacuzzi. Or
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
drywall.
I know.
Because there are 8 billion people on this planet. And I was doing the math. Around, at conservative, 1 in 10 are caregivers in some form. And that is so conservative. In Canada, we're 1 in 6.
Yeah.
So we're talking about hundreds of millions of people.
I'm laughing because Nova Scotia's probably worse. Like everybody retires here. We're like, where are the young people?
I know.
Oh, they're all gone, Alberta.
And Ontario.
And Ontario. Nicole, this has been an absolute delight. I don't want to be like,
what a fun way to end the week.
Yeah. No, we don't actually have a guest that could make it for the next 45 minutes. So you're more than welcome to stay as long as you want. It's mostly just going to be free flow conversation. And then when we end anytime between here and our typical end time.
I have about 15 more minutes, so I'm happy to chat a little longer before I jump off.
Okay. So then what I do want to know was, is there anything that stood out to you in our conversation that you just wanted to highlight?
I think for me, it was very validating and reassuring how natural the discussion was.
Aw, thank you.
And I think that that's a really good reminder for people that, going into any discussion or talk, like, what you want to cover, but really believing, like, one of the things I said to myself is, Nicole, you are a good speaker and you know exactly what you want to say and what you want to share, and then just trusting. And so I just think, I believe that it was a really good conversation and the flow, it happened naturally. And sometimes when we have an order in our head, at no time did I think, but I had wanted to say this one thing and I didn't get a chance. So I'm going to try to squeeze it in there, and then it becomes awkward. It was just trusting and allowing. So I think that's my takeaway of, because it's been I say a while, I mean like a few months since I have been on a podcast or anything. So this morning I was like, am I going to be rusty, etc. And so I think part of it is I'm just smiling because I'm like, and your warmth, right? I'm very big on energy. Mm-hmm. And I think that ability of, our intention when we come to share, I think just that's when the magic happens. That's my reflection.
One of the things that we were talking about with another guest was this notion of we think a lot, but we don't know if we necessarily allow ourselves to feel enough, right? And I feel like in like going along that path, the whole self-care side allows us to feel more, is the sense that I get.
Oh,
right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I cover a whole chapter on emotions, and, from a safety perspective, depending on what happens, sometimes we put up that wall. So for me, I called it my black box. So I had a black box. Emotions, sorry, you're not welcome here. I'm going to put you in this black box. Mm-hmm. And that's how I operated and survived for the longest time. But when we finally understand that our emotions are a GPS and we welcome them, right? So as women, right, how often have we don't get angry, versus saying, anger is my friend. Anger is just saying, hey, Nicole, you need to trust me. I'm just putting up a little red flag here saying, this interaction hasn't been positive for you. It doesn't mean you need to react in anger, but I am simply reminding you of how you actually feel. Yeah. I think when we get to that place where we can unpack, shift our perspective on how we see things, And that has been the biggest gift for me. And aha, it was like, oh my gosh, all along, my intuition's been there and correct. We've just been taught to ignore it or override it, etc., based on to be acceptable for in society's, you know, standards, or given even family dynamics.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you something really a little bit off the wall, perhaps.
Ooh, fun.
So other than reading, so my version of self-care, one element is reading billionaire mafia romances. So you just live in a totally different world.
You send me some. Can you send me some recommendations?
Oh my God, I've got so many good titles for you. But what I was going to say is the other part that's really important for me, and I see this as self-care, is humor.
Yes.
And to me,
that's what we're doing all day.
Yeah. I just feel like you can't underestimate the I don't want to say power, but the
power. It is power.
And I can't think of a better word. It sounds so businesslike, right? But like just that the release that you feel, perhaps, is the best way to put it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The sound like of a belly laugh. So one of the most endearing, like people will say, Nicole, I love your laugh. Now I've also been told that I laugh too loud. I talk like, so my laugh is not a cackle. It's not ladylike. It's not pretty, but it is authentic. And so people who like, once a friend posted a picture on Facebook and I was laughing, and my roommates from university said, Nicole, I can hear your laughter when I look at this picture.
Nice.
To your point, like, and so my daughter started speaking just a few years ago. So when she was younger, the sound of her belly laughs would literally melt my heart. So I get it. And it is I also believe in, and I tap into humor. So in my closed Facebook group, I do Funny Friday. I love Far Side comics. Like that is my jam.
Oh my God, those are like
right,
iconic.
Gold.
Iconic.
I know.
Yeah.
So I usually, it's always a Far Side, and I will post that, and I'm just like, let's send her smile on a week. Or let's end our week. See, let's end our week on a smile. Oh my gosh, I can't even.
That was me yesterday.
Yeah. And you know what? And I'm going to use that. The whole thing is learning to laugh at ourselves has been a huge lesson that I've learned in life.
Yeah.
Is it really diffuses, because when I can laugh at, because I do these silly things all the time. And so if I always say, you're going to laugh with me and not at me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You want to hear something funny?
Yes.
See, yeah. Of course.
We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
Yes.
Or the funnier version is we're laughing about you.
I like that one.
I think I get a lot. So.
Well, see, I have two older brothers, and they loved teasing me. So I backpacked around the world. So after university, and they hadn't traveled yet. They they've since traveled, but they hadn't left Nova Scotia. And I remember my brother was like, oh my God, Nicole, everyone's going to think Canadians are like you when they meet you. Like, that's the type of teasing that you just constant. I'm like, you're so funny. But you just kind of take it and roll with it.
I think the East Coasters are like that. But like when I travel, it doesn't matter where I am or who you are. I will talk to everybody. And then I read eyes. So I can pick and choose who I talk to. And even if I just met you, if I talk to you, I will playfully tease you and pick on you. And then when you find the people that pick back, it's so much fun.
Oh,
So much fun.
That's why this whole thing is M-rated. Rated M. For mature. clearly we're not. So
Oh, no. But okay, Laura, when I used to do that, so
Yeah.
imagine like my 8-year-old son, do you know that person, Mom? Why are you talking? Like after this whole thing, don't talk to strangers. And then we would be out and about. And then I would be like having these conversations or talking with people. And then my son would be not challenging me, pointing out that my actions were different than my advice to him as a parent.
Oh, I've never told my daughter not to talk to strangers. I'm just looking for a photo because when I went to Boston with Blue Talks last summer, I was hosted by one of the speakers at my own summit, and I got to stay at her house, which is really cool. But then after Blue Talks every single day, we met these amazing people on the street. And we would stop and we would talk to them in between like 15 minutes and seriously 2 hours. So then I started asking people, hey, do you mind if I start taking your picture?
Okay.
So then I have pictures. Oh, okay, that one's not letting me go. Then I have pictures of these random strangers that I met. There we go. Where I've had lovely conversations
oh, cool.
with just random people.
I love that.
Great.
And then they were like, wait, you want to take my picture? I was like, yeah, you're part of my journey. We had so much fun here. Do you mind if I take your picture? And of course, do you mind if I put it on social media? And they were just so mind blown. They're like, no, go right ahead. Just,
That
you
is such a
never
cool
know
idea.
what kind of
Such a
conversation.
cool idea. Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's a really cool idea.
Oh yeah. And now I want to go travel places and have more conversations with strangers, and
It's
then
like the
write a
Real
book
Humans
about
of New York.
conversations with strangers.
Yeah.
You're doing Real Humans of Laura Lake,
Real humans of Laura Lake.
or Real Humans with Laura Lake.
Are we sure they're not aliens? So let's kind of dive in to that speaking, writing, podcasting. How does this approach to people help you connect better with your audience on any of those platforms?
Because we're energetic beings.
Yeah.
And I believe, people seeing, so yes, my brothers used to say, you want to shut Nicole up, tie her hands behind her back. So it is.
And Tucker, yeah.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Funny.
can't talk.
That's really funny.
I know. See, I still giggle. Like, and I'm like, that's what, like 40 years later. And I just think it's I know that it's my own journey with my own inner peace and how I feel about myself. Put a lot of intention and sincerity about how I talk about my caregiving journey, ensuring that my daughter is portrayed in a really respectful light.
Mm-hmm.
I just think how I approach and the why, right? Why am I doing this? I know the pain points of family caregivers and the importance, as I always say, we're student and teachers.
Yes.
Right? So I go this way and I receive wisdom and I embody it. And then I just turn and then I just extend a hand. And that's kind of where my own journey is, caregiving, life journey, etc. And based on feedback that I've received as well around my energy, and I just believe it's one of the ways that I communicate my message best with my audience.
Yeah. What about you, Wandana?
What's the question?
What's the question? How does this whole idea of talking to strangers and the skill that it takes to do so, how does that help you in connecting with your audience, whether it's through speaking or writing or podcasting?
So for me, it's very simple. I'm an unapologetically curious person, and I just want to know because I'm so interested. And it was a big shift for me, actually. Like when that happened, when I realized that this is what I love, it's when you approach something with curiosity, it's either scientific or it's childlike. And if you just approach everything with that, it has such a huge impact because curiosity is like, it's active, not passive. There's no judgment.
Oh.
You're actually truly, approaching things with interest. So you don't have to feel bad or angry, or, if somebody says something wacky that doesn't sit well with you, it's like, if you just say, why would you say that? Just curious. Or, how did your mind go there? And it's such an easy way to turn things around. So because I'm a curious person, I will ask anybody any question that I'm curious about. I mean,
I've
not
heard
really.
I've heard stories.
Have you? Oh no. Well, there you go. It's just there's so much to learn from each other,
Mhm.
and nobody's got all the answers. I'm not trying to get all the answers, just so you people know.
I am. I want to know everything.
Okay, good.
Careful what you ask for.
I want to know the answer to all things and everything is 42, but I want to know in more detail what the answer is.
But it's just I love living in that world. So I completely support you. Maybe I should do the the real people of Wandana.
We're just gonna have a series. Real people of Laura, real people of Wandana, real people of Nicole.
Vandana, can I just add something to what you said? I love it because curiosity has become one of my favorite words for 2023, but it's inward. So when I'm feeling a different way, I now will ask myself, why? But as you said, it's so freeing, the curiosity, because that releases or removes judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, allows us to expand and then receive. And so curiosity is like one of my favorite words for 2023. So I love that you shared that.
I will tell you that one thing that I've noticed about myself, and I think this is probably true of curious people in general, is that sometimes that'll push me into overthinking mode.
Yes. Oh, very much. Yes.
And
guilty.
And so I have to be mindful of that, I find. But you know what? That's learning for me too, right? Even that experience is a learning. But I think I have to feel, I feel a lot of things, but anytime I'm talking to someone, it's like, I think that this might be it's like, why don't you just say I feel instead of I think?
Yes.
It completely changes your perspective.
Yes.
Right. But when you grow up in the business world and like the, dog eats dog world.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't even say it properly. It's like the thinking, the intellectual side is, your super force, and feeling is your kryptonite. That's kind of the way you're raised, right? So it's a big adjustment for somebody who's grown up, being part of I'm very spiritual and I have a deep sense of faith. So I feel like that's sort of this protection around me, if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a hard shift to make sometimes, the notion of feeling.
Yeah. If you take what you said about in business, the whole I feel as an answer just not being accepted and going with I think. Mm-hmm. In some circles where there are those power struggles, even the words I think
are not good enough. Yeah.
Weak, right?
Yes. Yeah. The facts state
exactly. It's like, no.
Based on my research,
we are human beings. Here's my definition of business. Okay, the way that I want to do business, it's human beings helping other human beings to be the human beings that they want to become. Like plain and simple. So then it takes into account you're a human being and you're a human being and you're a human being and I'm a human being, instead of it just being emotionless, robotic transaction. Check mark, check mark, check mark.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff that happens before and after that. There's the way people express things. Things are constantly in change and in flux. How do you take that into account with your transactions? It's very difficult. It cannot be calculated. It changes every millisecond. But if we come at it from we're all human beings trying to help ourselves be better human beings, now we can start to see the ambitions that people have. And just as you were mentioning at the very beginning, Wandana, where you help clarify that people are solving the wrong problem, treating people like human beings, we understand that the problem that they think that they have isn't actually their problem.
That's right.
We
And
need
you
to
know what, Laura?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not even a problem.
Exactly.
We create problems where they don't exist. Oh my God. You know how many times that happens in this world? Oh my God.
Beat head on. I can't tell you the amount of times that people have come up to me just in the last few months and said, I want to be a better speaker. How do I sound like you? Because on or off the stage, I've got melody, I've got tone, I've got, all these things that come naturally. It's because of performing arts. And so they think that's the thing that's going to help them get booked. That's the thing that's going to help them get paid. No, those are those 1% tweaks or 1 degree tweaks that change your direction once you're already on the path. Okay, there's so much that needs to happen before that. So I love this idea of being a speaker. When Jacob was on earlier, he didn't have a clear message yet. He still doesn't. He's exploring lots of things, but he has the courage that we've been talking about all week to try, as Erek was saying. Like, just get started. Do that self-care. See what your body tells you. See what your mind and your spirit tell you. And work on that. Just keep going.
Laura, I have to share something with you.
Yeah.
That relates to that. Or at least I think it does. But we might go off on another tangent.
Who knows?
But so one of the things that I've developed is a self-propagating success model. Mm-hmm. And this notion where it starts with curiosity and goes through a whole cycle, and we keep going through the cycle over and over again because success never ends, right? There is not a destination.
No.
So one of the things that I speak about is this curiosity leads to discovery. So experience and discovery, right? That's part of the cycle. But the stuff that there was a study done on happiness, and I don't know if I've shared this with you or not, but in that study, it was done in the late 60s, early 70s, and there was a book written by it that talked about the happiness curve. And one of the really cool things that they learned is there's a big difference between happiness, what drives happiness. There's telic activities and there's atelic activities. Have I told you this before? Have I shared this?
I think you did probably about a year ago, but of course our listeners need to know too, so continue.
Okay, so telic activities are those things that end. They have an end.
Okay.
So like a goal that you want to achieve or a place that you want to get to. Atelic are those that don't have an end. And so let me give you an example. So telic might be, I want to walk to the store, but atelic will be, I want to go for a walk. And you really don't know where it's going to lead you. And this whole, you open your mind up to discovery and experience, which is part of the success cycle, right? But the really cool thing is that it's the atelic activities that drive happiness.
Yeah.
Because you can only do so many projects. You can only hit so many goals. You can only, take on so many cases. You can only do that for so long before the happiness starts to dwindle. Initially, it's going to be really happy. And then it just sort of, the return of happiness is very low. Yeah. So it's something to keep in mind, right? Like it's the stuff where you just allow yourself, and I have to tell you, I think more for me, what resonates more than allow is enable. So which to me, it's you're not just allowing it, but you're enabling it. Like you're inviting it is the way it feels to me to happen. So the more that we can do atelic activities, I think is kind of a cool place for your mind to be.
Okay, so more neuroscience. Okay.
Yes. Oh my God, I love this.
Okay. I know.
I have to jump off. I have to leave.
Okay.
It was such a pleasure. And Vandana, we met in person at Toronto at the Blue Talks in March 20.
I was wondering why you look so familiar.
We sat next to each other. Now, when you were speaking, and I didn't do it at the beginning, but it's my hair is shorter. But yeah, that's why. I mean, it was, yeah.
There was a really tall woman sitting next to me too.
I'm 5'11".
Oh my God, that was you. Oh my God. Wow. I would not have recognized you.
That's okay. That's okay.
Sorry,
I just
but I-
wanted to connect those dots.
I want to tell you that at that event, I was more concerned about the pizza sauce that spilled on my white top
Oh, I
and
remember.
how I was going to speak after that.
Aw.
Well, no, of course, we were all in our own world. So as I said, when I first started, like, gosh, you look familiar. So it took me, I was like, ding, 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 to connect the dots.
Cool. I'm so glad I'm glad you raised that. Thank you.
No, I allowed curiosity to take over, and then I was able to connect.
Did you enable that?
I did. So, oh my goodness, what a joy. Thank you for ending my week with smiles and giggles. I'm ready to take on, my daughter will be home from school soon and take on caregiving activities. So
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, Nicole. I
Thank
hope to
you.
see you again soon.
yes,
It was
bye.
awesome, Nicole.
Bye. So then, okay, neuroscience.
Yeah.
Yay! Okay, you were
Oh,
talking
cool.
about why the A topic is so much more fun. Rated M for mature, just as a warning.
Okay.
So it's actually very similar to many other things.
Okay.
The brain gets involved, and the brain loves anticipation because anticipation builds all of those hormones that we love, like oxytocin and serotonin. Like, oh, what was the other one? Why did I just forget it? What?
Dopamine?
Thank you. Oh my God. So yeah, the dopamine and the oxytocin, just
I'm
like
a
all of those
neuroscience
fun brain
lover.
chemicals,
Yeah.
right? It builds them, and then we can't help but feel cooler and cooler and cooler. Here's the rated M part. It's very similar to sex. Okay.
Yeah. I knew you were going to go there.
You knew it was going to go there. Would you like to just snap your fingers, no build whatsoever, and just, orgasm? It's not so fun. The whole journey of interacting is what makes it enjoyable. I told you, M for mature.
Like, this is like,
It's
like,
the build.
this is
It's
like
the anticipation.
for exponentially, like foreplay to the exponential end.
Oh God, yeah. And
Yeah.
same thing going on vacation. Planning vacation is exciting.
Yes.
Choosing a destination, knowing where you're going to go. And then you go and you're just, cool, this is fun. It's not the same as the buildup before the planning.
Totally agree.
Right? And so that's
We
why
should,
those
we should approach
atopic
all of
things
our of our talks that way.
What?
We should approach all of our talks that way.
You gotta build it. Songs are the same way. Movies are the same way. We talked about the dip, which is a way to craft your story at the Experts Bootcamp. I'm just gonna keep bringing all this in, right?
Yeah.
And it helps you to start at a good level, and you get that dip so that you really feel coming back out of it.
Yeah.
When you go to a concert, they tend to start with their second best song, and then they go up a little bit, and then they go down, right? You've got that lull.
Totally right.
And then you come right back up, and they tend to end with their favorite song. There's always that build that makes us come along for the journey. You got to draw us in. You got to snap us with a hook. Then you can start to go be like, okay, now that I have your attention, we're going to talk about the deeper stuff. We're going to get real. And then it's from that point, you feel the elevation even more. Because if you started here, there's an elevation, but it's not as fun. So you start here and then you make that dip, and it's like a roller coaster.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because anything that is worth doing,
Yeah.
it should feel like you're heading to the top of the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like right when you're at that apex, just before you're going to drop. It's like the most exciting part.
Okay.
Rated M.
Rated M for mature. I knew this would be fun/horrible all at the same time. So then let's bring that back to the fear, since we talked about that a lot today. I'm going to ask you about your fear. Was there fear for you to become a speaker? Was there fear for you to be on podcasts like this, or to, I'm assuming you wrote a book. I know you're in one of the Blue Talks, aren't you?
I'm supposed to be, but don't tell anybody that. It'll happen one day.
It'll happen one day. Okay, it's coming.
But I just like Corey was Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller through an anthology.
Nice.
So that was exciting. I think so. I'm not afraid. I'm not really
At any point?
like no, I'm not, you know what I'm afraid of? It's not the speaking.
Mhm.
It's making sure that I'm delivering enough value such that it's going to impact somebody
Okay.
in a, I don't want to say it, this sounds so cheesy to say in a really positive way. That means nothing really. It's a very ambiguous word, but it energizes someone to take an action that is in the right direction for them. You know, we talk a lot about this, right? This setting of intention.
Yeah.
But to me, you can set an intention, but you don't have the action. The intention doesn't really matter. So
Exactly.
intention, action. But the more important thing for me is not just having action, is having the direction. So if you don't have the direction of the action that came from the intention, then you missed it, you know? Like I just take it one step further.
Yeah.
But I guess I mean, I've taken so many chances. I'm like that though. I'm a risk taker.
Yep.
And which is not always a good thing. And there are some things I have to tell you, Laura, in all honesty, if my kids ever did some of the stuff that I've done, I would wring their necks. Honestly, I would not put up with it. Like totally unacceptable. Anyway, we'll reserve that conversation for some other time.
I was quite the opposite growing up. I didn't really take any risks. I was very much the stereotypical like good girl who followed all of the rules.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. That I was. But once I got into, business and the hard knocks, school of hard knocks.
Okay. Yeah.
It changed me.
Yes.
And I think one of the, like you said about performing arts, I think that's so important. And not just for me, my performing art was getting in front of people and doing presentations that were really scary. Like that it was almost like you would be defending a thesis.
Oh
like,
my God.
Like those kinds of presentations. And I was like, oh my God. Like it's very easy in those presentations, like to kind of just go totally blank. And you just have to think on your feet.
So then how do you stay confident in you and your message and your beliefs in situations like that where people, it's their job to, or maybe you're falling into it, where they are challenging you, like just pushing you to the limits? I know Erek kind of mentioned a bit about that earlier, but I want to dive deep into that with you too.
For me, I think it's like my outlook on it right now is, and I don't think this will ever change, famous last words. I approach it through curiosity again, because if they're asking a question, so a really amazing boss of mine had said to me once, it's people say they know, but they don't know, they think they know. But the other thing is that when people ask you questions, like senior managers or whatever it is, it's not because they're trying to see, try to get you. They actually genuinely want to know. Yeah. So if you just assume that people just generally want to know, and that's why they're asking the question, then it's okay for you to say, why are you asking me that? I just want to make sure I understand that I'm answering it correctly.
Yes.
Totally takes the fear away. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Fear is a funny thing. And I will totally agree with you, by the way, that fear of the unknown is the deepest, darkest fear that we have.
Oh yeah.
So just do it,
I just remember being at Boston last year and giving my talk. My talk was basically calling BS on the whole know, like, and trust, which is something people in business use all the time. And it's just copy, paste advice, copy, paste advice, copy, paste advice. And I'm a questioner. I'm curious, always have been.
Yeah.
And when I would see that I can do everything perfect and still not get it right.
Yeah.
But I'm like, something is wrong. At first I thought it was me, as we all go through. It's like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, totally.
No. So then I was so afraid of questioning what everybody sees as something that works, that I didn't even write my talk until the night before. I didn't do my slides until the night before. I didn't even put in my edits for the video until about 8 months after I did it.
You and I are so simpatico, it's not even funny.
Because I was so afraid that all of these marketing gurus would come back at me. And basically, I'd live out all of my childhood fears of, you're not good enough. You didn't do your homework.
Can I just tell you, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
This know, like, and trust thing
Yeah.
is almost non-existent in the corporate world.
Yep.
It's a very entrepreneurial, small business
Yes.
journey to
Yes.
say that.
Yeah.
Kind of wonder why that is, right? Like why there's two differences.
Well,
like the difference.
Corporation is very transactional, and behind the scenes, it's relational, not in the forefront, because I've been part of corporate as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the entrepreneurial world, it's all relational until you become bigger and have to have that more corporate mindset. When then behind the scenes again, it's still relational.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was trying to push on is that, again, we're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole know, like, and trust is going back to our childhood again, where it's me, 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 me. Entrepreneurs know our story and our business is not about us. So why are we following the outdated rules where it's about me? And I'll share it this way. Get to know me. Get to like me. Get to trust me. Okay, that's very self-focused. Whereas now we're understanding that story connects us in a much deeper level. Hence the wanting. Yeah, like we get it. We know it works, but then we're always trying to figure out, well, what are those tweaks that we can make? And I like to flip it on its head.
Okay.
I work with a lot of mess-to-message type entrepreneurs. You know, I've been through crap. I've learned stuff that I couldn't find anywhere else. And now I'm trying to share that with people like me. So what I found is that I need to get to know, like, and trust that version of me that was in that struggle. From there, I can find clarity and truth so that I can speak that clarity and truth to people who are like me, who are struggling with that. But that's an inside job that I have to do first. Because if I hate that version of me, the people that I'm speaking to are going to feel that. They're not going to feel liked or loved either. But what needs to happen as human beings is basically saying, you know, look, I see you in your darkness. We're still loved and cared about enough, not just to be sold to, but because I actually care about taking you out of this place and being here for you through that journey.
That's awesome, Laura.
Completely different than saying, hey, buy my stuff, it's going to help you out.
Totally.
Completely different. So then if I get to know, like, and trust me, it allows me to finally understand enough to get to know, like, and trust the people I'm trying to serve, which is just the old version of me, but in somebody else's body. And now through that process, that person that we're trying to serve gets to know, like, and trust themselves on a whole new level, because we don't change other people, they change themselves, right?
So I'm going to give you a scenario.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you'd approach it.
Sure.
You all right?
Yeah. Oh, there's just a bug that was in my face. It's like, no, go away.
Okay. So it's getting very dark here and I apologize. I might have to turn off the lights. So I'm in this situation where
yeah. Okay. We have about 5 minutes.
Okay. I work with, I'm building a program for women, for entrepreneurial women who are restless outliers. So outliers because they think differently, they feel differently, they feel like they're not like the typical, average person. And it's a self-proclaimed thing. There's no test for it or anything. Like it's if you feel different. It's how you feel.
Blood test. Okay.
But and these women, they know that they're meant for more, but they haven't quite figured out what that is yet. So it's a greater calling, it's a purpose, whatever you want to call it that. Yep. But I teach them through the genius of curiosity and creative problem solving.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the premise. That's the background.
Okay.
What I'm trying to figure out is based on your theory,
Yep.
the know, like, and trust of because this is what I was like this once.
Yep.
I mean, I'm still working through it, but I was like it once where I hadn't figured it out. And how would you advise me to approach what my main message should be, if that is even a reasonable request?
Yep.
Using your idea of know, like, and trust from what I was.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to, I'm trying to.
No, I'm all excited to share. Yeah.
Okay, because I just want to get a practical application
Oh, yeah.
in my head, because
Of
I think
course.
that for me would really illustrate it.
So it came up earlier that there's a huge difference between talking about a situation and
Mhm.
talking about your perception of a situation. Okay.
Mhm.
So we do understand that stories connect us and we want to share our story. What I'm asking of people through this idea of getting to know, like, and trust ourselves, and then the other person learns to do it, and then they just naturally do it for us. We can get to that place by doing what I call the emotional dip. So Corey talks about the dip. I take
Yeah.
it one step further and go, what are the emotions that tie all of my stories together, all of my tools together, all of my labels together? It's all in the pursuit of this emotional journey. So what was the feeling that you were feeling in your story, in that deepest, darkest moment that felt like crap? Really get clear on the emotion that's there. Because then it doesn't matter if I followed your story to the T or something very similar. You're addressing the pain that isn't a tangible, it's an intangible, right? That atopic versus topic.
So, you mean telic, atelic?
Or sorry, telic. Yeah.
So I guess that's another reason why I talk about telic versus atelic, is because to me, I was like, this can't be all there is to life. Like, there's got to be more than this.
Exactly.
How many times am I going to keep doing this for everybody else and keep doing it over and over again?
Yeah.
Because that's not bringing me, satisfaction anymore. I know I'm meant for more.
Exactly.
But these women that I'm talking to are not unhappy women. Like, they're not
No.
like down in the dumps women.
Nope.
So it's really hard for me to figure out how to articulate that pain point.
That's what a story session is for. Is I dive into your story to figure out what you were feeling. Because there are going to be feelings like that. It's not that they're unhappy. It's not that they're unsatisfied. There's something weird or something off.
Yeah.
So then your job is actually to identify the emotion of what that is. And usually I carry a feelings wheel or an emotion wheel just to help kind of guide a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But then because you can start to articulate what they are feeling, now instead of them having 50 or 100 different tools to try, you've been so clear that now they have 5. And that's the goal, is instead of giving them the overwhelm of what they could do, you're finally focusing their effort to get them to start taking action. And it goes in this direction. So if you're saying, I'm stressed, stress is like 50 different emotions. You got to pick one, okay?
Yeah.
I'm feeling frustrated. Cool. Okay. To solve frustration, you only need these kinds of things, not all of these things. If you're feeling lonely, you need these types of tools over here, not the ones for frustration. So it helps to simplify when you're finally addressing the emotion. So then what do these women want to feel? What are they looking for? And usually we think of it like a stick, right? There's the emotions that they don't want to feel, and then the opposites on the other end. That's the journey that they're making. So then what are those milestone moments, which are emotional, not tools and stuff, that help them get from, if we bring up this emotion chart, to go from something like, guilt, shame, up to love. They don't just jump that. Oh my God, that's huge. And that's why they feel like they're going to fall. So then how do we get from shame to maybe grief? How do we get from grief to fear or up to anger? It's one step or 2 steps at a time where they build their way up. And if you help them build their way up with those milestones, when they crash, or if they crash again, we fall at least a couple steps. They know how to get themselves back up. They don't need you to do that for them anymore. Oh, magic.
I almost feel like this is, I don't know how to say this. It's defining who they are as a brand.
Yes.
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. And that's why I talk about branding so much.
Okay.
Marketing. Yeah.
Cool.
I love this.
Yeah. Awesome. It's a great conversation.
Thank you. I know it's like slowly getting dark in your hotel.
I know. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I don't even know how to turn the lights on in this place.
No, it's all good. We have about a minute or two left. I just want to kind of highlight something that stood out for you today. So
Okay.
was there anything, like any insight or any part of the conversation that you just really loved about today?
So many.
I know. It's so hard.
This is not a fair question.
You're like, here's my dissertation afterwards. You can get it this link.
I'm really, like, I can think of something in each conversation. I'm really big on teaching someone to fish versus fishing for them.
Exactly.
So I want to build people up by building their skills to give them confidence to achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
That's sort of the message that was the biggest for me.
Yeah.
And you heard it in like each one of our speakers, really.
Yeah.
And in very different ways. But what about you?
I really liked Erek's story about the sergeant that kept pissing him off.
Yeah.
Because it had so many parallels to our relationship with fear and our relationship just as an entrepreneur in the entrepreneurial community. I didn't realize that until he had shared it. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
The things you learn from other people. That's why I love interviews so much. I learn so much from the people that I get to share.
So true. And, you know, it's funny. I was having a discussion with somebody about, like, you know, some of the hardest things you've had to do, when you do them, this relief that feels, this incredible relief, this incredible unburdening that feels like you are being freed to do whatever it is that you want to do. It's like, think of a bad relationship.
Yeah.
You know, when you ended it, it was so hard to do, but when you did, it's like, open the doors. Or like when you stop, you know, if you're addicted to something, same thing, right? It's a relationship.
Yeah.
So I just think that, you know, the more we're able to help enable that with people, I think is magical for me and for you and for everybody else for that matter.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah, I'm going to chat with you behind the scenes, but before we go, I just want to say thank you to every single person that showed up live and on the replay this week, to all of my co-hosts, to all of our guests. It's always a lot of fun, and I love that we come through this with curiosity, and we play, and we have so much fun doing so. Now, we have not planned a specific date for the next one, but either it's going to be in December, since this is October, or January. It just kind of like depends on Christmas and, you know, holidays and that kind of stuff. But I do want to say that you can learn so much from somebody's story, why they chose speaking, podcasting, writing. We're talking about their fears, everything. If there was something that you found in any of our interviews this week, tag the person, connect with them, you know, share it on social media. We would love to see your comments and love to see how you use some of this information and insights. And come to Blue Talks Networking. Watch the interviews. Come to the boot camps. There's so much to be involved in. You know, we've got the books, we've got the speaking. We're putting people on, what is it, Times Square with their new books. There's so much going on. We would love to have you with us. And on that note, I will say much love and see you next time to everyone. Mwah. Is there anything you want to say, Wandana?
I think you said it all. It's you're awesome. That's all I can say.
Okay, I'm gonna say it right in the camera. Everybody watching, you're awesome.
You're awesome.
You're badass. You're awesome. Go be amazing, as my friend Kathy says. Go be amazing.
Go be amazing.
Bye, everyone. And then we sing and dance as I press the end stream button.
I'm really